nation really undermines our authority. And this is a takeover in the manner in which we see it. We have engaged government departments, including cooperative governance and traditional affairs.
Protesters have now handed over a memorandum to traditional authorities calling for government intervention. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News, Gombo in the Eastern Cape.
The MK party has lost its bid to prevent former National Director of Public Prosecutions Shamela Batoyi from receiving her pension payout. The party had approached the Gauteng High Court, citing alleged misconduct by Batoyi as a reason to halt the payment. It wanted an inquiry to first be established to look into Batoyi's conduct during her appearance before the Nkabinde inquiry. Batoyi walked out of proceedings at the inquiry looking into prosecution's boss Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. The party's Mzwanele Manyi says they are still waiting for a written judgment with reasons from the court before deciding on a way forward.
It's on record that Batoyi has, for the past, in fact, the whole tenure has been a disastrous tenure. We differ on people on many things, but on this one, I have not come across anybody that is holding Batoyi up and above and saying she did the best, she did everything. She has just actually brought the whole NPA into disrepute, actually.
Agricultural groups are urging the Mineral Resources Department to urgently consider a temporary adjustment to the fuel pricing mechanism to stabilize supply. This call comes ahead of an expected fuel price hike this week, driven by the Middle East conflict. The organizations warn of emerging supply constraints, particularly in rural areas, with a survey of farmers and fuel retailers pointing to growing pressure at farm level. Nkosikona Malingamnisi reports.
A joint study by AgriSA and Agbiz shows constrained fuel supply across several regions, with growing rationing as retailers limit volumes amid uncertainty over replenishment. The groups warn this is starting to disrupt farming and agribusiness operations at a critical point in the production cycle. They say the current situation is driven by a mix of global oil volatility, supply chain challenges and market behavior, and stress that clear pricing signals are now crucial. Theo Boshoff is the CEO of the Agricultural Business Chamber.
So as a result, to stabilize supply, we've asked government if we can maybe review the fuel levy to ask for temporary relief, as well as also more regular, not the monthly price adjustments, because their thinking is that would essentially remove any incentive to stockpile or panic buy if the price is only going to go up at a later stage.
Meanwhile, Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has written to national government calling for urgent intervention to prevent alleged fuel hoarding, warning it threatens key sectors like agriculture, which accounts for more than half of the country's exports. Kona Malingamnisi, Eyewitness News.
And Norway says it will temporarily slash its taxes on petrol and diesel to counter rising prices as the Middle East war disrupts global energy supplies. As of April the 1st, the tax on petrol will be reduced by 7 rand a litre and diesel by at least 4 rand a litre. Norway's parliament voted in favour of a reduction on March the 26th. The tax cuts also apply to mineral oils used in fishing as well as hunting. Gold is trading at $4,572.52 an ounce. The rand is at 17.14 to the dollar, 22.69 to the pound, 19.65 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $114.85 a barrel.
Edenville heading towards Bedfordview. There's bumper-to-bumper traffic. R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gilulis interchange. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Sharon Lee at Malubongo Drive and Mahogany.
And in your sports, Bafana will field a full-strength side for their game against Panama at the DHL Stadium tomorrow, while Tottenham are in talks with the new head coach following Igor Tudor's departure after just 7 games, while just 4 rounds left to play in the URC, and South African teams are wasting no time climbing that table.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 27 and 30 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: 12 vehicles have been torched during a protest in Gombo in the Eastern Cape today.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
"702 Drive with John Perlman" is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 minutes past 3 on Monday, the 30th of March. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope your Monday is off to at least a decent start to the week. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you're listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. As the fuel crisis deepens, what impact is there likely to be on the movement of goods around the country? Food, ingredients for food production, medicines, cleaning materials, building materials. We'll talk to Gavin Kelly, who heads the Road Freight Association. He has a very clear-eyed view on what's happening with all those trucks that move up and down the main roads of our country and the back roads as well. He's with us at 10 to 4. In other stories, a very complicated story from what I can see. Perhaps it's because I don't properly understand exactly what's going on, but violent clashes in the streets of Gombo, East London, over the ceremonial crowning of a Nigerian king in the area on the weekend. People living in that part of the Eastern Cape are incensed. Babalo Ndenze is on the scene. He'll be able to shed some light for us on what's going on. We'll catch up on the very latest news in regard to the Gampepe inquiry. There was court action, you may recall, taken by former Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. They were wanting the presiding judge, Sisi Gampepe, to recuse herself from the inquiry, which is looking into why cases that should have gone to court after the proceedings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission have never actually made it to court. We'll get the very latest from our EWN colleague Dimakatso Lishoro. And in this uncertain world we're living in, bilateral relationships between countries have become more important than ever. At 10 past 4, we'll look closely at our relationship with Japan, one of the major economies in the world. We'll do so in the company of the Japanese ambassador to South Africa, Shumizu Fumio, joining us here in our studios in Johannesburg after 4. We're all looking forward to that. On the markets, a small gain for the JSE, up by 430 points. Bearing the modesty of that gain, because it's not a lot, it's I think about 0.4%, the fact that the resources index is up by 3.7% tells you just how poorly most other shares are still doing. All today's winners are in the mineral space, coal doing especially well, with South 32 up by 10% and Tungela by 8.5%. Exxaro has gained 4.7%. Valterra, the platinum producer, up by 4.6%. Anglo Gold up by 4.45%. The oil price is ugly today. In a period of very ugly oil prices, Brent crude currently trading at $114.74 a barrel. That's expensive. The rand is trading at 17 rand 14 against the dollar. A euro will cost you 19 rand 68. 22 rand 68 cents will get you a pound. Stephen Critters joins us with all the market news at 25 past 4. We'll have sport with Tato Muloto. You heard him a moment ago. You also heard Mbali Dlamini, who's back at 3:30 with the very latest news headlines. And Karabo Chali is keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live. If it's happening in 702 land, you'll get to hear about it here first. But if you know something we don't, if you've seen something that we haven't yet observed, if you understand something better or more clearly than we do, please do contact us on 072 702 1702 or 011 883 0702. It's 13 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So we got lots to talk about, lots to inquire about, lots to think about when it comes to thoughts. Often the most interesting thoughts are the most random. And sometimes you get a seemingly random thought, but it is prompted by something happening around you. throughout today, actually, we're going to talk about things happening in our building. Starting with this, have you ever, or did you ever go and visit the place where either one of your parents worked, or perhaps the adult that in whose care you were, a grandparent, an uncle, a close relative? Did you ever go to the place where they worked? Because maybe you needed looking after on the day, or you said, can I come and see what you do at work? We prompted to do this. Karabo Malapile has her daughter Tiamo, who's visiting us today. First time she's been in the building at Showtime. Welcome to her. It's great to have her with us. But your story, please. I visited my dad's place of work, but it was kind of on the fringes of it because he was a general practitioner, doctor. So obviously, for obvious reasons, you kind of stayed away from areas where he was really doing his work. But usually when I went there, it was because I kind of was required to do something like help carry boxes of files or whatever. You know, there was a task often associated with. Didn't often go along to, come in and hang out and see what's going on.
No diagnosing any patients.
No. Or like, telling jokes to cheer up the nervous. No, absolutely. I think that was never going to happen. But if you've got a story, please, we'd love to hear it. 072-702-1702. Jonathan Fairbairn, Kabazela, memories in that regard?
Yeah, afternoon, John, and afternoon to our 702 family. So I remember going to my mom's place of work. But I remember a specific lady there. Her name was Shirley. Mm-hmm. Quite an elderly woman who worked there with my mom, but very friendly, very sweet. And then even years after my mom had left that place of work, she would sometimes phone on the landline.
Yes.
And say, hello, it's Shirley. Is your mom there?
Yeah.
And I just remembered a lovely, lovely woman, and she remembered me. And then we'd have a little chat often when she would call. But a big memory that stands out is I went with my uncle. He was working at the race courses, at Turfentine Racecourse.
Okay.
And on this particular day that I went along with him, I mean, I was fascinated with what was going on, the race horses and all that kind of thing. One of the horses had fallen and broken its leg. And, it was lying on its side there. And they had to call the vets and all that. And they were going to put the animal down. Mm-hmm. But also on that particular day was when Chris Hani was assassinated. Okay. So that memories, it's like one of those unforgettable memories, right? So of something like that happened on the same day. So that's what I remember going to his place of work all those many, many, many years ago.
Yeah, that is a long time ago. And just down the road from that, I think Bafana were playing Zimbabwe at the Rand Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a congestion of people in that area, and obviously the atmosphere of huge grief and massive apprehension. Quite a memory. Karabo Chali, visiting adults work in your lives, workplaces.
Yes,
any thoughts?
I used to visit my dad's work a lot, not by choice. I didn't really want to go there because it was a cold, dark office in the payroll office where if I had to go there because there's no one looking after us, I would end up in the filing room where we had to have file all these forms and documents the whole day, and it was no any child's play. So I never looked forward to it, but hey, I used to go there a lot. And the only nice thing about it is that the other adults would treat you, they'll give you sweets, and they'll just make sure that it's the best experience you can ever get, but it was not.
But it's very interesting what you say there, that invariably I think adults are always pleased and they they're trying to make a child of a colleague or a kid in the colleague's lives visiting, try and make it a little bit special. Your stories, please, on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. 17 minutes past 3.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's find out what's happening out on the roads. Gets pretty busy around this time, although I would think should still be a free flow for most of you. But Karabo Chali is going to alert you nice and early there's something you need to know about.
Yeah, generally not looking too bad across 702 land. No serious accidents have been reported on our highways. However, traffic is already building up. Expect about a 20-minute delay. That's in the Edenville area heading towards Bedford View on the R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kiluli's interchange. Not yet clear what's causing this delay. So if you're in and around that area, it does look like there's an accident scene, but just confirm it for me. You can WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702. Traffic lights still not working. Sharon Lee, Malibongo Drive and Mahogany, as well as in Midrand at New Road and 16th Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, you can also SMS us on 31702.
This Easter weekend, 702 brings you more than great conversations. So, stories and sounds to carry you through your long weekend. Whether you're on the road, gathered with family, or stealing a quiet moment for yourself, we're right there with you. From Good Friday through to Easter Monday. Enjoy special holiday programming to keep you connected, entertained, and completely at home. Join Kenny Maestri from 10 a.m., Pushaza Sibia from 2 p.m., Richard Nwamba from 5 p.m., and Notemba Madumo closing out your Easter Monday from 5 p.m. Wherever your Easter takes you, take 702 with you. Stream 702 live on the Prime Media Plus app. This Easter, 702 is with you. 702. Let's walk the talk.
From promise to progress, South Africa is stepping into its next chapter of growth. Catch the Clement Manya Teleshow live from the 6th South Africa Investment Conference tomorrow at the Sandton Convention Centre. Be part of the conversation as government and global partners come together to unlock capital, drive strategic partnerships, and turn momentum into real economic outcomes. That's the Clement Manya Teleshow live from the 6th South Africa Investment Conference tomorrow. South Africa Investment Conference. Invest, partner, prosper on 702.
For Olwethu Nxumalo of Ozide Rentals and Custom Dressmaking, every stitch is a story. What's your Telkom business chapter?
What made Telkom business stand out from all the rest was how fast everything was.
And with voice calling and fiber from Telkom Business, she stitches together inquiries and sources fabric online without dropping a thread. Get unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month and Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Illegal water connections have serious consequences for the city's water supply. When pipelines are tampered with, it damages infrastructure, reduces system pressure, and can leave entire communities without water. Johannesburg Water continues to remove illegal connections and strengthen monitoring across the network to protect supply. Residents are encouraged to report illegal connections or suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg on 0800 002 587. Protect our water infrastructure. Protect our water supply. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus our attention now on the city of Kugpo, East London, where there's been substantial chaos today. A number of vehicles burnt and thousands of demonstrators have taken to the streets over the alleged coronation of a Nigerian Igbo King for the city of East London. I must admit the details are... I'm struggling to piece the full story together, but don't worry about that because our EWN colleague, Babalo Ndenze, is down in Kugpo at the moment and is with us now to give us the very latest. Babalo, what actually happened over the weekend? And those people involved in the ceremony, in the presumably the Igbo community in Kugpo, how have they explained what it is they were doing?
Yes, John, indeed. It was a symbolic, almost ceremonial coronation of an Igbo king by the Igbo community in Kugpo, representing the Igbos in whatever region he's from in Nigeria. So he's got no control of any area in South Africa as a king. And this was a gathering of fellow Nigerians, John. And I think they hired a venue. They invited, fellow community members and other people from East London or Gombo to attend the ceremonial coronation. And then there was quite a bit of an outrage on social media, which eventually reached, the ears of traditional authorities in the province. Now, this is the Xhosa royal family specifically, as well as authorities from, corporate governance and traditional affairs. And so the traditional leadership of the Xhosa royal house, as well as, the Amatole House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, as well as March to March, which is an organization that's KZN-based, also decided to be part of this protest. And they also heard about this, and they also joined in on this protest, and this outrage, including people from the Zulu Nation, Ngizwe Mchunu, also here to give his support from KwaZulu-Natal, to give support to the Eastern Cape traditional leaders. So that's what the process was about, and that's what really happened. So there was no a coronation that was officially sanctioned by the Nigerian government or officially sanctioned by the South African authorities. And I guess that's where the anger is with South African authorities, is that they did not seek to contact the traditional authorities, to seek permission.
Yeah.
So that was, a bigger partner got cut off there. And so that was the protest today, and people voicing their opposition to this, saying that they are, basically disrespecting the sovereignty of the royal kingship in the province.
Is this a reflection of deeper tensions? And we would have reference points for that in, virtually every part of the country, where people feel small businesses being dominated by people who are not South Africans, in this instance, Nigerians. There may be other issues and points of tension as well. I mean, if this gives us a window into relationships between people in Kugpo and this Nigerian expatriate community, what does it tell us?
Yes, indeed. It did basically just, bring those tensions back to the forefront again. These are, tensions between local people, as well as against local businesses that are run by foreigners in the inner city, your spaza shops and whatever. So there is that, element or an undertone of those xenophobic, incidents that we've seen over the years, where these, Somali-owned shops are targeted specifically, but they were targeting Nigerian-owned businesses in the inner city. But not only them, they also basically spilled over into other local businesses. They were looting. I saw some looting of a butchery, and this butchery, there was no indication that this butchery was owned by a Nigerian. They were burning trucks. This was a truck that was standing in the street that just looked like a truck that belongs to a local business, and not to a foreign national. So those tensions have basically come back now, and people have, vented their anger at, I guess, being sidelined or noticing that a lot of businesses are foreign-owned or foreign-run in the inner city in Gombo, and not just in the inner city, also in other parts of the Eastern Cape. And I was also speaking to the Kadista, who's a chief in the Xhosa royal household, also of the Amatole traditional house of traditional leaders. And he's saying that there's a takeover, to quote him directly. There seems to be a takeover of foreign nationals, Nigerians specifically. He also, says that some of them are, trying to get permanent residency in South Africa, like getting into relationships with local women, South African women. He says they are daughters and they are sisters. So those tensions are really back up. And it's just not about the coronation anymore. And it seems to have morphed into a bigger issue of South Africans just being, frustrated by the influx of foreign nationals into the country.
Babalo and Denze with that update from Kugpo. If you live in the area, maybe you've got family members in that particular coastal city or in the general region, that part of the Eastern Cape, you may want to call us and give us your take. Anything that you might have seen or heard or reflected on yourself and you'd like to share, the number is 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. Give us a call if you would like to join that part of our conversation today. 27 minutes past 3.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
We're asking you about whether you went to the place where your parents or some other significant adults in your life worked. Brian shares this. My father worked in a sugar mill on the north coast of KZN. It was so interesting to see how sugar was made. The smell of molasses is a constant reminder for me of the mill. 702 Drive.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's focus our attention now on a story that's been around for quite a while now. As you may know, a commission of inquiry was set up to look into why court cases, prosecutions that ought to have flowed from the proceedings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, nothing has ever happened with that, or insufficient. Numbers of prosecutions have taken place. Now, that was going to be the commission to look into that, is headed by former Constitutional Court Judge Justice Sisi Khampepe. Former Presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki then went to court asking that she recuse herself from the inquiry. The court has ruled. Let's find out what the decision is and, crucially, what the implications are. Dimakatso Lishoro is our EWN colleague who's been watching that closely. Dimakatso, very good afternoon to you. What did the court rule? What did the judge say? And why is it so important? Good afternoon to you.
Hi. So, John, there are two matters here with regards to this application. The first was an interlocutory application that Jacob Zuma's attorneys brought, where they wanted the commission to be forced to release what they claim was evidence of misconduct and criminal behavior on the part of the judge. And, the court has pronounced on that, saying that there was no competent application with regards to that. And obviously that has been dismissed. But a huge part of it, and the part that the judges have spent time in this judgment, was Section 47 of the Superior Court Act, which, they argued, Jacob Zuma's lawyers as well as Mbeki's attorneys, that the judge must be penalized for what they call a prima facie evidence of her violating the PRECA Act, saying that because she has refused to recuse herself when there are other people who could perhaps oversee the matter, because they allege that she was biased and that she was involved with the NDPP in the late 90s. Therefore, she does not qualify, and, she could be biased when they come to give evidence before her, and they wanted her to pay costs in her personal capacity, saying because they allege that they allege misconduct on her part. This emanates from an allegation where they say that when the application was first brought before her to recuse herself, she assisted the evidence leaders at the commission in their response to the papers in that application, and they allege that was misconduct and it was criminal behavior. But the court has found that, even if she is a retired judge, she is covered by Section 47 of the Superior Court Act. In fact, they were very scathing, saying that two former presidents joined forces in the case of the applicant and are taking a retired judge of the Constitution, to force her to they're saying that this is an abuse of court process, because what must have happened prior to the application being brought before the High Court, they were supposed to seek the approval of the Chief Justice. Before you charge a judge of any misconduct, you're supposed to get permission from the Chief Justice to say, yes, go ahead. And they did not do that. And because of that, that meant the application was fatal. It was dismissed. The merits of the case were not even considered because they did not follow due process.
Thanks so much. Very thorough overview of the matter brought to court and the implications of the ruling. That investigation, the Commission of Inquiry into TRC prosecutions, nothing to stop it going ahead in earnest, it would seem. 702 Drive, it's 28 minutes to 4. Right, let's get the very latest eyewitness news now with Mpali Dlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Vehicles have been torched and businesses looted during demonstrations against the installation of a so-called Nigerian King in Gombo in the Eastern Cape today. Police had to fire rubber bullets to disperse crowds after the protest turned violent. Various organizations took to the streets today in what was a peaceful march, calling for action to be taken, saying the coronation was unacceptable. Social media outrage erupted recently after videos and photos went viral showing Solomon Ogbonna Eziko being crowned in a lavish ceremony. Chief Kanti Sikau, Amatole local House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders chairperson, says they're offended by the event.
An Igbo a national from Nigeria was coronated as a king. Now, our people, including traditional leaders, are really pissed off with that because it undermines the sovereignty of our kingship here, which is led by King Vululwande Sandi. This is the Xhosa territory. We are the descendants of King Palo.
The Freedom Front Plus says its recent merger with the Referendum Party does not mean it will start advocating for the independence of the Western Cape. Party leader Corne Mulder says the merger helps to clean up the political terrain of more than 500 registered parties ahead of the next elections. The Referendum Party was a single-issue party founded in 2023 with the sole purpose of pushing for a referendum for Cape independence. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
The Freedom Front Plus says it was approached by the Referendum Party to merge. The merger will see the party officially being deregistered as a functioning political party, and the Freedom Front Plus will take over its database of some 8,000 supporters who have the choice of signing up with the FF Plus. FF Plus leader Corne Mulder says the merger does not include the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, which gave rise to the Referendum Party.
People that are involved with the Cape Independence Advocacy Group will continue with advocacy work, whatever the case may be, but that stands outside and is not connected to the party from our side.
Mulder says although the party supports self-determination, the merger does not mean the FF Plus will necessarily adopt the ideal of ceding the Cape from the rest of the country.
So we accommodate the ideals in terms of where we are, but as a national party operating throughout South Africa, we are basically committed to serve our constituency throughout.
Mulder says the Referendum Party's former leaders will not assume any leadership positions within the FF Plus. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
600 Putco bus drivers are receiving additional training today ahead of the Easter long weekend. The bus company says the drivers will be transporting thousands of ZCC members to Limpopo for the Easter pilgrimage. The company says the workshop is being held in conjunction with a number of stakeholders. It says it wants to ensure an incident-free Easter weekend. Spokesperson Lindo Kulu.
The company will be collaborating with key stakeholders such as the Road Accident Fund, the Johannesburg Metro Police Department, Gauteng Traffic Police, and the Gauteng Department of Community Safety, who will all be actively workshopping our drivers to be more alert, responsive, and defensive on the roads during this high-pressure period.
And the American University of Armenia has announced a temporary halt to all face-to-face classes. The institution is moving all classes online following Iranian threats to target U.S. universities in West Asia. Iran threatened to target U.S. universities in the Middle East after saying U.S.-Israeli strikes had destroyed 2 Iranian universities. The university insists it has not received any direct threats and stressed there was no cause for alarm. There have been tensions and violence in the Middle East since the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran in February. This resulted in retaliatory attacks by Iran, mostly in the Gulf region. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 27 and 30 degrees.
Edenville heading towards Bedford View. Expect about a 30-minute delay. R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Gilulis interchange. Look out for those faulty traffic lights. That's in the Midrand area at 16th Avenue and New Road.
The top story in EWN, vehicles have been torched and businesses looted during demonstrations against the installation of a Nigerian king in Gombo in the Eastern Cape.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
President Ramaphosa saying he has not been sleeping very much, nor has his finance minister, who is, of course, crunching the numbers to see what relief he can offer hard-pressed South Africans ahead of expected increases in the price of just about everything, principally fuel, fertilizer, and that means food. How badly are we going to be hit?
The price increase is quite a big shock. Today it's over $110 a barrel.
barrel, so almost double the price that we saw probably a few months ago. So we do expect that it is going to be a hard hit.
How rapidly can we expect these increases to filter?
We wouldn't expect them to go up immediately. With food, I think it's longer term sort of impact because that may be months away for some of the food products, only once fertilizer prices go up and transport costs go up.
James Hodge, the chief economist of the Competition Commission.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9
on 702.
Think fast. Fast downloads, fast streaming, fast wins. Because whether you're chasing high scores, deadlines, or the next episode, buffering is not part of the plan. That's why your home needs the power of OpenServe Fiber. Fast, reliable Wi-Fi that keeps up with your life. And when you sign up before the end of March, you'll score a free Netflix voucher. Level up your home connection with OpenServe Fiber and feel the difference speed makes. Visit openserve.co.za today. T's and C's apply.
Bar Black Sheep. Have you any wool? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. More than 3 bags full. We think beyond today, tomorrow, more. Look up, look far ahead. We may choose to leave the herd. There's greener grass where fewer care to tread. Bar Black Sheep. Proof of what we do. Better for clients for over 20 years. Courage, we hold the course for you. Bar Black Sheep. If you want more wool, it takes black sheep thinking. Camissa Asset Management. Invest different. Camissa Asset Management is a licensed FSP.
We at Monument Dental are very happy with the premium we're paying. I wish I did it sooner.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For dentistries, general medical practices, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
EWN Sport.
Okay, so Bafana in action up against Panama. And if you think of going to the second Soweto derby of the season, better go out and get your tickets and do it quickly. Tato, Molota, any tickets left?
Indeed, Ntate John, tickets went on sale today, so there are some tickets left as far as the Soweto derby is concerned. In fact, that was moved on to the Sunday instead of the Saturday because of the Ultra Music Festival. However, you will still be able to enjoy your match. Try catch them while you can, because you know how it goes. You will lose them very, very quickly. Meanwhile, on national duty, it is Coach Hugo Brosh who will be hoping for a more decisive performance as he fine-tunes his squad ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Bafana have failed to win their last 2 games, with Brewers confident that they can end that run at the Cape Town Stadium against Panama. This for their second friendly tomorrow. Brewers has also discussed areas that they can improve on.
We played a game on high level. We played good football, modern football. Not only when we had the ball, but also when we lost the ball. So I hope that we can do that a second time. And that should be very good for us, because when I said already before the game, this is a preparation game. The result is not so important. The performance is more important, but I didn't want to lose two games one after another again.
If you're in Cape Town looking for tickets for this Bafana game, well, you're out of luck because that game is sold out. In the Premier League, Tottenham Hotspur are wasting no time hunting for a new boss after cutting ties with Igor Tudor yesterday, just 44 days in charge. Well, there might be a new bombshell entering the North London villa because Spurs are in talks with Roberto De Zerbi. De Zerbi will apparently be offered a 5-year deal at the club. And how quickly do you think they want him in that locker room, you ask? Well, as soon as this Wednesday. Over to India now. The IPL today sees Super Kings with Royals at 4. Meanwhile, yesterday it was Ryan Rickleton that was the star of the Indian Premier League when he made 81 to help Mumbai Indians beat Kolkata Knight Riders by 6 wickets. Then finally, it's a rise to the top for South African teams as far as the United Rugby Championship is concerned. After the weekend of successive clean sweep victories, Stormers staying second on the table. For the Lions, they move within the top 5, Bulls 8th, and Sharks in that top 10. Tato Moloto, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Right, let's get out onto the roads, find out what's happening in the traffic. Edenvale seems to be our first trouble spot today. Karabo Charlie has all those details.
Yeah, heading towards Bedford View. That's leaving the Edenville area. Expect about a 20-minute delay on the R24 N12 westbound between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange. Otherwise, the rest of 702 land not looking too bad. No serious accidents have been reported on our highways. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights. That's in the Sharon Lee area at Malibongwe Drive and Mahogany. In the North Cliff area heading towards Randburg, I can see delays. This is on Bayers Nordia between Judges and the N1. Also, faulty traffic lights in the Kyalami area. This is on Kenilworth and Kyalami Boulevard. Traffic lights still not working in Bramley at Collet and Scott. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Still to come on 702 Drive, we are going to be talking to Gavin Kelly. He heads the Road Freight Association. In other words, he knows what's happening with all those trucking companies out there moving crucial goods up and down the country along the main highways as well, but also into the little corners of South Africa where stores and individuals are waiting for mechanical parts and food and components of food and medicine, you name it. There's hardly a thing that doesn't move along the roads. What's their take on the looming fuel crisis? Maybe it's not looming. We're in it already. I think it's fair to say he's our guest shortly to give us an update on that. I was asking you earlier about memories of going to visit the place where a parent or a significant adult in your life actually worked. Maybe you went for a day, maybe you went regularly. Renelle says, my dad works in a tire factory. I would play in the piles of tires and smell of rubber for days. And this one from Valerie, very evocative. My dad worked on the mines in the old days. I always remember the cages coming up from under the ground and the men coming out with the lights still on their helmets. Lovely image. 4:45. Tato, as a kid, did you go to anyone's place of work? And if so, what do you remember?
Do you remember CMI, now known as Glencore?
Yeah, yeah.
That is where my dad used to work back in Mpumalanga.
So he was a coal miner?
Yes, boilermaker within the company. Not quite as interesting for me in Tate John, if I'm being very honest, because I would sit in the tea room. Because he was down under and I couldn't go down under. So I'd sit in the tea room and wait for tea time. And the only thing interesting was them coming out and their faces were as dark as ever because of the coal.
Yes.
So that's what I remember. And obviously, those big security checks when you drive into a mine. Quite interesting.
So would you go there, in school holidays? And would you go every day for a few days, or would you just go once in a while?
So my dad used to work a lot of weekends,
okay,
and my mom used to work a lot of weekends, so they'd interchange in taking me to work sometimes.
Right.
So one day I'll be in the municipality offices, which is Tabachwewu, where I come from, and then the other I'm in Glencore, and I'm just, watching things around. Turns out I am in either of those industries now. Really.
And did people spoil you? Did they say, Tato, and come back with sweets or chips or cool drinks?
You know what, Tata John, there was something about a kid that could speak fluent English, particularly if they were not white back in my day. So I got spoiled a lot because I could say thank you.
Okay. Well, what a tale. Coal miner and municipality, your experiences of visiting places where a parent was working or an adult in your life. Please do give us a call on that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Still to come on 702 Drive after 4 o'clock. We're going to be taking a very, very close look at the state of South Africa's relationships with Japan. It would be an interesting topic at any time in the life of the world, but I think bilateral relationships, in other words, relationships between individual countries, have become incredibly important over the last 12, 14 months. They're crucially important now, given the turbulence in the Middle East and the consequences for the global economy and individual economies everywhere. But even before that, with the turbulence around tariffs, a lot of conversations were on the go about how you make sure you have the best possible relationships with the people with whom you're already connected and bonded in some ways. Excellency Shimizu Fumio, Japan's ambassador to South Africa, my guest at 4:10. It's 13 minutes to 4.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
But let's go back to that turbulence I was speaking about, in particular the massive impact of the war in and around Iran on the availability of fuel in the world in general, and of course the price at which it's being bought and sold. My next guest is the CEO of the Road Freight Association. He would know very, very clearly what impact this is having on those big trucks we see on every type of road in every corner of our country. Gavin Kelly, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon to your listeners.
So, just a kind of factual point of departure. What proportion of the national haulage fleet runs on diesel?
Well, you start with the difficult question, don't you? John, it's probably going to be easily around about 80% because it's all the fair to medium hauling, the long hauling. So really in town, you would find guys running on 93 or 95. It's not a big portion of the fleet at all.
Okay, so I mean ballpark 80%, and that's really all I was looking for. No two numbers after the decimal point or anything like that. But that would obviously suggest a significant vulnerability to your members and other haulage companies that are not part of the RFA. What are your members saying about the availability of diesel?
Well, that's interesting because there are a couple of speculations that have been going around on a number of bits of media here and there. Diesel has not been in short supply. What has happened is that some deliveries to large operators, they have held back 20% of the delivery, saying, we haven't quite got yet, but we know there's lying in the depots and there is out at the storage tanks. So the diesel's been flowing. Here and there have been forecourts, what you and I will call a petrol station, that have limited supplies so that people don't come rock up with 10 tanks or cans and fill those up in their car. But at this stage, there isn't a shortage.
I'm sure you guys have a, maybe not long range, but certainly a medium range dashboard as to where everyone gets their diesel from, how much is in the country, how much is on the waters, how much is still the subject of arm wrestling and negotiation. I mean, if we were to look 3 months down the line, if this hasn't improved, are we still in fairly steady and stable waters, or does it get choppy down the line?
No, we're in pretty stable waters. It's one thing that the government has actually got right, even if it's only to about 70%. So 68% of our fossil fuel, if you want to use that term, whether it's crude or finished product, is coming from Nigeria. Another 21% comes from the Far East. Of course, that could be impacted by what's happening up on the other side of the Hormuz Strait. Just want to let that motorbike go past. He's got no fuel problem. And then the remainder, it comes from the Strait of Hormuz of Iran, that sort of area. So we really don't have a problem in terms of sourcing fuel. But if that goes pear-shaped, if our good Uncle Donald decides to do some really strange things, we might find then that the world starts to go crazy in terms of price. And that's really what's killing us, isn't it?
Yes.
Because Nigeria is selling its oil in a dollar price. It's not selling it in a real price or a Nigerian dinar price or whatever their currency may be.
So one of the things I've just read, and I don't know to what extent we have a vulnerability to India's policy decisions, but this was coming out of Bloomberg today. India's announced a series of tax changes, including a levy on fuel exports. And apparently we import as much as 24% of both petrol and diesel from India. First of all, is that correct? And secondly, if they put this levy, it's a 21.5 rupee per litre and 8 cents more or 8 rupees more on jet fuel. Does that start hitting the price, or do haulage companies not use a lot of diesel from India?
Well, when you fill, your tank, there isn't a sign saying from India or from Iran or whatever. So the 21% I said that came from the east is India and that area. The rupee, thank goodness, is still a little bit weaker than the rand. So 8 rupee doesn't equate to 8 rand. It's about 4 rand, more or less 4 rand, a little bit less than that. So that's not going to have a tremendous impact. But, John, every time you add something, even if it's 20 cents here and a 50 cents there and a rand here, it's all eventually going to add up to that. The question is going to be whether India doesn't have its own oil reserves. If India starts to feel a sharp downward trend in their reserves, whether they suddenly push that price up as well or limit, what's allowed to go out of the country.
So I mean, by and large, Gavin Kelly, we're getting a sense of confidence from your side. Government is well prepared. Stocks are reasonably abundant, although the flow might not be great. And clearly the price is a problem and looks set to perhaps be an even larger problem down the track. But what are the kind of things that can happen if people are perhaps overcautious or even panicking? If people were to, for example, go out and try and buy diesel and fuel, maybe it became the subject of interest for criminal syndicates. Could we start seeing some significant bottlenecks? And if that could happen, how do we stop it happening?
Yeah, you've asked 3 very important little questions in there. So the first thing is, you remember that thing called COVID where we all went out and bought toilet paper and baked beans?
Yes, cans of tuna.
Exactly. I couldn't work out why guys bought baked beans and toilet paper. Maybe the toilet paper was the insurance. So the first thing that'll happen is you'll have a huge demand on the retail forecourts. That's where the average citizen will go. And of course, they only get deliveries X times a week. And with there being some supply constraints, you would find that some forecourts would start to go dry. I mean, around us, I see they might have 12 pumps. They're only operating out of 6 pumps, for example, with a sign saying diesel finished at this pump.
Right.
So that's the first thing. There would be this run on the commodity and whether local supply could keep up with that. Of course, as soon as somebody puts a sign saying, oh, we're out, that ups the ante and people start buying far more. So you start having almost this whirlpool drag on what is actually available, down the road from you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there will be 2 sets of those who want to profiteer, those who've got the cash and the tankers and the wherewithal to go and buy the fuel and then sit on it and wait for the April the 1st increase, and then sell it at the 9, 10 or whatever rand a litre more, or even just 6 rand a litre more, depending on what they want to make quickly. That's the first thing. So that's, in general, I think what the fuel companies are trying to prevent these opportunistic profiteers. I think something else starts like that in Parliament. And then finally, it's around, and there's been some speculation, you would have seen the Central Energy Fund and the Department of Mineral Energies have asked the average person in the street, general public, to tell them if there are forecourts, petrol stations who say they're empty, but they're not, because they're hoarding product so that they can then sell the product they bought at a lower price, at a higher price. So it's getting around those 2 things, really. The fuel is lying off our coast, as far as you know, in tankers. It's been bought. The question is, are there players that are busy trying to run the money? So I bought, that tanker at 10 million. If I keep it offshore until the 1st of April, I can sell the product at 20 million, per example. I'm just using numbers to give the idea. So that's the other thing, and that's where government, I think, is trying to get everyone to play fairly, to say, listen, you sell the price at the price that has been promulgated in the Gazette at the regulated price or at the wholesale price, and people mustn't go and start hoarding up or buying huge amounts unfairly so.
Thank you so much, Gavin Kelly, CEO at the Road Freight Association. Very interesting what he has to say, that there are supplies. There's tankers waiting offshore that he thinks might be being, let's just say, not sailing as fast as they can to get here. But yeah, there's a lot to keep track of, and I'm not sure if government has the capacity to actually intervene as often and as much as they can. But let's keep, and by the way, follow his suggestion. If you know of fuel being held back or you want to engage on that particular theme, please do call us 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. This is 702 Drive.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
The Midday Report at its heart is a current affairs show, but it really is a show about everything you need to know about and everything you didn't know you needed to know about. Our listener is sharp, plugged in, curious, has developed opinions, but is still open to learning new things. My favorite part is how witty, sharp, and funny our listener is. What we cover every day is breaking news, current affairs, politics, the courts, global developments, science, education, popular culture, sports, books, and of course, good things too. I like to think of it as a lunchbox with a little bit of everything. What I love about 702 Land is that it is full of energy. There's always something happening, a developing story to follow. But it's not parochial. The 702 family cares about what is happening in the world around them and how we plug into that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Weekdays from 12 to 1 p.m.
On the go and your stomach suddenly not keeping up, that burn, bloating or reflux could be symptoms of an ulcer. Stress can make it feel even worse. Ulcernic offers triple action relief by coating your stomach lining with a protective layer, and it works for up to 6 hours. No prescription needed. Choose between suspension tablets or effervescent tablets. Keep an eye on the shelf for Ulcernic's new packaging. A fresh new look outside, same trusted relief on the inside. Visit the Ulcernic Facebook page for more.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5, it's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. This is EWN.
Tensions remain high following violent protests in Gombo City, and Jacob Zuma Foundation says Gampepe battle is not over. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Civil organization March and March says a protest that descended into chaos in Gombo City today demonstrates an ongoing fight against illegal elements allegedly at the hands of undocumented migrants. Protesters took to the streets today up in arms over the alleged coronation of a Nigerian king in the city, saying the ceremony showed complete disregard for South Africa's sovereignty. The angry crowd set several vehicles alight and looted foreign-owned shops in the city centre. The protest was joined by parties like Action SA as well as traditional leaders. March and March leader Jacinta Ngobese Zuma.
It's something that's systematic. We're fighting the system as we're here, and it's not going to be an easy fight. We understand that we're fighting governments, we're fighting people who are beneficiaries, and we're fighting foreign nationals themselves.
The Jacob Zuma Foundation says a ruling which dismissed an application by former presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki to remove Justice Sisi Khampepe as its chair is not the end of the matter. Zuma and Mbeki were dealt a blow in their attempt to have Khampepe removed. They argue that she is biased and will not able to objectively evaluate the testimony at the commission. The commission has accused them of using delay tactics, with the former presidents expected to appear before the commission at some point. Foundation spokesperson Mzwanele Manyi says a decision on whether to lodge an appeal will be taken after legal consultations.
But I can tell you now that in all likelihood, it's not the end of this important and unprecedented matter. This ruling at this point does not address a substantive issue of judicial misconduct and possible criminality. All it has done is to go to some technicality about procedural matter.
Limits on diesel sales at some Johannesburg filling stations are raising questions about fuel supply, but government maintains there is no national shortage. The Department of Mineral Resources insists South Africa has enough fuel and says any disruptions are local and temporary. But global uncertainty, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, is now driving concerns about possible price increases. Mongezi Koko reports.
Fuel prices in South Africa are linked to global oil markets. This means any prolonged instability abroad can push up the cost of crude oil. Costs eventually filter down to motorists and affect the price of transport, food and other goods. Industry leaders and government warn that panic buying can distort demand, leading to local supply pressures even when national stock levels remain stable. Departmental spokesperson Lerato Nzoko.
Despite volatility in global energy markets arising from ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, fuel consignments for March and early April 2026 were secured.
Motorists are being urged to buy fuel as normal, while authorities continue to monitor both global developments and local supply chains. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
To a story now which contains some graphic details that may upset some listeners. Exactly how an 80-year-old woman was murdered and dismembered in Bellville South, allegedly by her 63-year-old sister, is still the subject of an investigation. Today, the case against Aletta Rose was postponed in the Bellville Magistrates Court. She was arrested when Constance Scholz was found murdered in their home 2 weeks ago. Camry Clark reports.
Aletta Rose is not only charged with the murder of her sister Constance Scholz, she is also accused of decapitating her and cutting off her hands. Today, legal aid was appointed to represent her, and they requested the court to send her for psychological observation. However, the accused and the state objected, with the prosecution arguing the severity of the crime does not automatically warrant psychological observation. The case has been postponed to the 5th of May for further investigation into the method used to kill the victim. Camry Clark, Eyewitness News.
And a 7.3 magnitude earthquake has struck off the coast of Vanuatu today. According to the United States Geological Survey, the quake hit a depth of 115 kilometers and caused moderate shaking across several islands. Government says no fatalities have been recorded. Earthquakes are common in Vanuatu. Just last month, residents were shaken by a magnitude 6.4 earthquake, but damage was minimal. Gold is trading at $4,572.52 an ounce. The rand is at 17.14 to the dollar, 22.69 to the pound, 19.65 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $114.85 a barrel.
Northcliffe, bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Bears Naudé between Judges and the N1. Driving through Alex, expect some delays. N3 southbound. This is heading towards Germiston from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren.
In your auto sports, the Indian Premier League is at the toss right now. Super Kings up against the Royals. Meanwhile, Coach Hugo Brosh is ruffling some feathers over at Mamelodi Sundowns. All this because of his squad for the second friendly with Panama tomorrow. And of course, there is Tottenham Hotspur, who are fast on the hunt for a brand new coach, and they already have someone in mind.
A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 14 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 17 and 28, and Vereeniging 13 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. March and March leader Jacinta Ngobese Zuma says a protest that descended into chaos in Gombo City today demonstrates an ongoing fight against illegal elements.
EWN
In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 7 minutes past 4. Good to have you with us on this Monday. Hope your week's off to a decent start. Hope you put some fuel in your tank. I don't mean literally, but emotionally and spiritually or whatever gives you strength to tackle a brand new week. Over the weekend, I hope the weekend was good and it gave you some good vibes so you can tackle whatever is ahead of you. What is ahead of us, of course, is an extremely uncertain world. That's been true for quite a long time, I think it's fair to say. Changes in the global tariff regime, all sorts of other things going on, but I don't think anything has challenged the globe quite like the conflict going on in and around Iran, with its implications for fuel prices, for instability in the global economy. In that context, relationships between individual countries, bilaterals as they're referred to, have become particularly important. Over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to focus on our relationship with the country of Japan as we host His Excellency Shimizu Fumio, who is Japan's ambassador to South Africa. He's stepping into our studio in the next couple of minutes. Of course, on all these issues and many others besides, we do love to hear from you. So do get in touch on 072 702 1702. A couple of things dominating the conversation at the moment. I asked you about visiting the place where a parent or a significant adult in your life worked and what your memories were of that. Some of you are sending us your thoughts and memories on 072 702 1702. And a few of you are responding to our interview with Gavin Kelly from the Road Freight Association. If you missed that, by the way, please pick it up on primemediaplus.com. He had some very interesting things to say about the haulage industry, which he estimates runs on around 80% diesel vehicles. So they're watching the diesel price very carefully. The availability of diesel is uppermost in his mind, and he seemed obviously concerned about price. That's something they can't control, but felt that supplies were not looking too bad. So that was Gavin Kelly earlier. Let's hear what a couple of you had to say about these two stories.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hello, it's Avery from Edenvale. So I used to go with my parents to work all the time as a kid. In fact, I had to do admin work for my mom, and she would pay me in wimpy burgers, essentially. So she used to work for one of the banks as a broker. That was the most fun. I would literally go with her every single day, do scanning and filing, and I was probably like 10 or 11 years old, answering her phone, doing all of that. And then with my dad, he was in the military, and he was quite highly ranked. So that was always fun to walk next to my dad, and everybody salutes him. It was an amazing experience.
Worked for a company called Rembrandt back in those days, which basically was promoting alcohol and cigarettes. But his job was to translate anything that was done into English into Nguni languages like Swati, Zulu, and so on. So I got the opportunity to go to a lot of these radio stations to actually create the voiceovers. Metro FM, got to meet Lawrence Dube, got to meet Sheryl Twala, a lot of iconic radio presenters. Even had a visit to Bob TV and Bob Radio as well, which was quite cool. So anything that was basically radio based and TV based and advertising, he would basically do all the translations. Coolest experience ever. That's why I still love radio so much. Molefe from Rodopoto.
Hello, John. So a maritime fuel container vessel carries between 10 and 20 million liters. All right, so let's call it 15 million liters. All right, so 15 million liters makes the math very easy. If they sell it for R1 extra, it's 15 million rand. If they sell it for R4 extra, it's 60 million rand. So those are astronomical numbers, and which definitely makes it very lucrative for somebody just to hold their ship back before bringing it into port. This is Hendrik from Pretoria.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Hendrik, and I like the way you use the numbers. I mean, the only thing I would say, though, based on my extremely limited experience of trading in commodities like oil, diesel, and refined petrol, surely you buy at a price. Okay, no, I get what you're saying. So, okay, whoever's importing it would have bought it at a particular price, but you hold it back when the opportunity... I get it. I'm diverting and distracting and probably making something of an idiot of myself, which is entirely unnecessary. Yeah, I get it. Hold it back and sell it when the price goes up, and then the margin on what you paid for it expands. Thanks for those. Keep those coming on 072 702 1702. 13 minutes past 4. Traffic time.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com. Do it now. Karabo Charlie, Northcliffe, what's happening there?
Well, bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Northcliffe area. That's heading towards Randburg, Beyers, Nordia, between Judges and the N1. Not yet clear what's causing this delays. So if you are on that route, please let us know. You can WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic. Driving through Alexandra heading towards Germiston, expect some delays. N3 South from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren. In Midrand, there's a stationary vehicle slowing down traffic. This is on the N1 northbound before New Road. Erasmus Park, Pretoria, traveling towards Linwood. There's a stationary vehicle. N1 South. That's at Rigel Avenue, causing some delays. If you come across any other traffic issues, you can also SMS us on 31702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
We hear what you're saying as industry, we hear what government is saying, but there seems to be a mismatch because motorists, many of them are concerned on the ground. What's your message to the motorists out there?
Yeah, I hear you, Clement. But like you said, you can't over-communicate on something like this. People, they are panicking, but there's adequate stock availability. Remember, when I say this thing is going to self-correct, there are very few people who can use a full tank within 3 days. So by then, this price adjustment will have passed and everything should be normalized. I mean, we'll all get, fuel. We should not worry. We will have enough fuel for everyone.
Abafani Chifularo, the Chief Executive at the Fuels Industry Association of South Africa.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
When you train for results, you don't quit halfway. Earn up to 7.35% interest with a Nedbank Just Invest account. Access your money within 24 hours. Keep your money agile. Get money fit with Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. We're licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Gear up for glorious Grand Slam success with Hollywood Bets. Take your tennis passion to new heights and feel every stroke, rally and match point as the drama unfolds at the Australian Open, Roland Garros, Wimbledon and US Open. The biggest stages in tennis have been set as the world's best go head-to-head for ultimate bragging rights. Bet now and make every moment count. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Water is a precious and limited resource that we all depend on. Johannesburg Water continues to strengthen the city's water network through improved turnaround times for leak repairs, pressure management, and infrastructure upgrades to improve system reliability. But water conservation is a shared responsibility. Residents can help by fixing household leaks, turning off taps, taking shorter showers, and using water wisely. Every drop saved helps. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's, C's, and more on primemediaplus.com.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 18 minutes past 4. Welcome to the show if you've just joined us. Geopolitics have been very, very turbulent for a good many months now. Of course, we are in a particular and some might say uniquely difficult time with a conflict going on in the Middle East. In that context, relationships between countries, bilateral ties, have become more important than ever. That's why today we're going to focus our attention on South Africa's relationships with the country of Japan. And we welcome to the 702 Drive studio His Excellency Shimizu Fumio, who is Ambassador of Japan to South Africa. Ambassador, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time today.
Thank you for the invitation, Mr. John Perlman.
So, Ambassador, let's just talk in broad terms first of all. South Africa, relationships with Japan. Are they fundamentally about trade and our two economies, or are we also looking to align ourselves on some of the big global issues as well? In other words, are they political relationships as well?
Well, Japan has been developing a good and trust relationship with South Africa. And we started our diplomatic relations at 1910. Mm-hmm. And after that, both countries have faced a very serious respective histories. And then 1992, we re-established our relationship. And then we have been conducting our cooperation in various areas, and especially in the economic areas. You may know that Japan is now, or last year, number 5 largest trade partner for South Africa, and number 7 largest investor to South Africa. When we look at the roads in South Africa, we see many Japanese cars. So Japanese car makers such as Toyota and Nissan and others, and also the car parts making companies have come to South Africa and making the various vehicles, more than 200,000 vehicles made in South Africa. And these are the trade and investment relations. Now, as you mentioned, that the world situation or structure is changing. And for Japan, it is important that in such a situation, the world should not be divided.
Yes.
The world should be united and should cooperate with each other. This is our basic policy. And for that, we have a vision named free and open Indo-Pacific. And this vision is announced in 2016 when the then Prime Minister, Mr. Abe, came to Kenya for the sixth edition of what we call the TICAD, Tokyo International African Development Conference. And he addressed his keynote speech. And in this keynote speech, he addressed the FOIP, the Free and Open Indo-Pacific. This is an idea that we should respect and promote the basic values and principles such as freedom, democracy, basic human rights, and rule of law. And with this in our mind, we do our utmost diplomatic efforts. And I believe that South Africa upholds the same fundamental values and principles, as I said earlier. And with such a country, we would like to cooperate with each other, not only for the bilateral economic relations, but also to challenge their various international issues.
How though do you, as a small country which we are, or medium-sized country which we are, and I'm just talking about the numbers here, how do we sustain relationships with one of the world's biggest economies like Japan in a world in which there are very powerful nations like, and let's just say, the United States, who are looking not only to influence their bilateral relationships, but are looking to change the global terms of trade for everybody? How do we keep our business going when a large country like the US is wanting to change the rules for everyone?
First of all, South Africa is not a small country. The middle-income country,
Yeah.
and you are an influential country in the global South. And as I said, that nowadays it is important that the world should not be divided, and we should cooperate with each other.
But Ambassador, with respect, it is divided.
Well, we are facing the challenges in the international community.
Yes.
But in such a situation, or because we are in such a situation, it is important to respect and promote the very basic idea of the international law, international principle, which is written in the UN Charter and so forth. And we would like to cooperate with the various countries, including South Africa, who also respect and promote such basic values and characters. So this is very much important time for us and for South Africa to cooperate with each other.
Let's look at the future. And when I talk about the future, I don't mean a long way away, but the next 2-3 years. What does Japan see as the most crucial economic opportunities that lie in our bilateral relationship? Where would Japan wish to invest, and what do we make that Japan is keen to buy more of?
Well, Japan has already invested in various areas such as energy, infrastructure, telecommunication, minerals, and others. And as I said earlier, that we see many investments from Japan in the area of car industry, but also South Africa and also Japan are facing the very serious international challenges, such as targeting the carbon zero or emission, or carbon neutral, or facing the climate change and so forth. And one of the key areas which we will cooperate furthermore is to cooperate in the area of just energy transition. And regarding to this issue, last year in November, the governments of Japan and South Africa signed a memorandum of cooperation on decarbonization. And for realize the cooperation in the area of decarbonization, we are doing various concrete cooperations. And recently, we organized a seminar in our embassy and focusing upon the cooperation in the area of energy and railway. And we showcased what we have achieved here, and also we showcased what we can do, offer the Japanese technology to facing such challenges.
The world is in a state of real turbulence at the moment. I think it's fair to say that. I'm probably understating it. Ambassador, I mean, what is Japan's perspective for the next 3 months, 6 months? Do you think that there are signs that we might be getting out of this particular crisis we're in? Or do we need to put on our seatbelts and get ready for a long and bumpy ride?
As far as I understand, the most urgent issue is the safety and stability in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And we do our utmost effort to calm down or de-escalate the situation. For example, on the 19th March, very recently, 10 days ago, our Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi visited Washington to have a bilateral summit meeting with Mr. Donald Trump. And she insisted in front of Mr. Trump that we need to cooperate with each other for the de-escalate the situation. So de-escalate the situation, as well as it is important that we could restore the free navigation in the Hormuz Strait. And for that, also on the 19th March, Japan and other 5 countries issued a joint summit-level statement to ask Iran to secure the secure navigation in the Hormuz Strait.
Ambassador, there are many more things we can talk about, but we've come to the end of our time. But thank you so much for joining us here on 702 Drive. Ambassador of Japan to South Africa, Shimizu Fumio, we thank you for your time. It's 29 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis joining us with the very latest from the markets. Small gains today, but just that, small gains, I suspect.
Yeah, very much so, John. Good afternoon to you. And Brent crude now $115 a barrel, and that's really the scary thing, and that, of course, is scaring markets. As you say, the JSE All Share up 0.14% at 111,933, mainly because of what's happening in resources. They're up 2.66%. Financials are up 1.57%, and industrials are down 0.7%. Financials are down 1.57%. Industrials are down 0.73%. But the story probably is South 32. One of the things they produce is aluminium. They're up 9.31%. Now, aluminium prices around the world are up, have jumped today. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said late yesterday they'd been able to hit 2 aluminium plants in Bahrain and the UAE, saying they're linked to the US military and therefore were fair game. That's really pushed up anything to do with aluminium. Tungela also up 6.79%. Exaro in the coal business up 4.6%. Interestingly, though, some of the platinum miners also doing okay. Valterra is up 4.11%, and Implats, Northam, and Alpha Min are all up by around 3%. And of course, Sasol also will benefit from higher fuel prices. They're up 3.57%. We buy cars, though, they're down 6.5%. Some of the communications companies like Telkom are down 4.66%. Property companies down 2%. Attack's down 4.2%. Hammerson is down 3.35%. And Mr. Price, interestingly, down 2.72%. F&B getting a new CEO, the current CEO, Harry Kellen, taking early retirement. Only been in the job for 2 years, John. There'll be question marks about that, I suspect. A restructuring or a new restructuring, or whatever you want to call it. There'll be a new retail and business banking segment. That'll be led by Latanya Johnson. She'll also be the new CEO at FNB. She's been the CEO of their personal segment for the last 3 years. Meanwhile, Sizwen Kletlana will stay on as head of private banking and wealth management, enterprise and public sector sub-movements. They move to a new commercial and corporate bank run by Munir Ismail. And Bell Equipment today reporting their headline earnings per share down by 11% for the year to the end of December. In the US, There's a bit of optimism at the open, not quite like that at the moment. All, of course, about what's happening around Iran. The Dow Jones is up 0.45. The Nasdaq is down 0.13. The S&P 500 is up 0.12. The gold price now $4,520.80. Platinum $1,887.30. And Brent crude, John, $115.50 a barrel. The rand to the dollar 17.19, to the euro 19.71, to the British pound 22.66. More woe in an hour. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. 28 minutes to 5. The latest news now with Mbali Dlamini, another failed court bid, I believe, making news. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The MK party has lost its bid to prevent former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoyi, from receiving her pension payout. The party had approached the Gauteng High Court citing alleged misconduct by Batoyi as a reason to halt the payment. It wanted an inquiry to first be established to look into Batoyi's conduct during her appearance before the Ngabinde inquiry. Batoyi walked out of proceedings at that inquiry, which is looking into Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. The party's Mzwanele Manyi says they are still waiting for a written judgment with reasons from the court before deciding on a way forward.
It's on record that Batoyi has, for the past, in fact, the whole tenure has been a disastrous tenure. We differ on people on many things, but on this one, I have not come across anybody that is holding Batoyi up and above and saying she did the best, she did everything. She has just actually brought the whole NPA into disrepute, actually.
With the major fuel price hike looming this week, Cape Town motorists have expressed concern over what impact that increase will have on their pockets. Petrol is expected to rise by at least 5 rand a litre, while diesel could see an increase of more than 9 rand a litre from Wednesday. Reports have also emerged of fuel shortages in some small towns within the Western Cape. Ntutuzelo Nene reports.
Some motorists are scrambling to fill up their tanks before the record-high fuel price hikes take effect. They say the increases will negatively affect their budgets, with some even considering switching to public transport.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, my friend. I'm telling you now, it's going to be very tough, but I'm sure we'll make it through, man.
Wow, crazy. And hard times is coming up, so I don't know, looks like we have to catch the train.
It's hectic. I need to transport my kids to school. I need to transport my partner to work. I'm self-employed. I must drive wherever I need to go to the meetings.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the government is considering ways to lessen the impact of the steep increases. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
And Norway says it will temporarily slash its taxes on petrol and diesel to counter rising prices as the Middle East war disrupts global energy supplies. As of April the 1st, the tax on petrol will be reduced by 7 rand a litre and diesel by 4 rand a litre. Norway's parliament voted in favour of a reduction on March the 26th. The tax cuts also apply to mineral oils used in fishing as well as hunting. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 13 and 17 degrees and highs of between 26 and 28.
Driving through the Joburg CBD bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 southbound from Killarney Bends to the Crown Interchange in Northcliffe. We still have slow-moving traffic on Bears Nodia between Judges and the N1.
The top story in EWN, the MK party has lost its bid to prevent former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batoyi, from receiving her pension payout.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
My show is about getting you informed by the time you get to the office, your place of business, or wherever you need to go. Hopefully, you have a fairly good idea what's happening in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and around the world. We want you to be part of those water cooler conversations, and you will be part of those conversations because you'll be a better informed citizen. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is the ecosystem that we have built, the community. It's all about connection because we may be different, but ultimately the people you talk to and the people you hear are facing issues just like you.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.
From promise to progress, South Africa is stepping into its next chapter of growth. Catch the Clement Manyatela Show live from the 6th South Africa Investment Conference tomorrow at the Sandton Convention Centre. Be part of the conversation as government and global partners come together to unlock capital, drive strategic partnerships, and turn momentum into real economic outcomes. That's the Clement Manyatela Show, live from the 6th South Africa Investment Conference tomorrow. South Africa Investment Conference. Invest, partner, prosper on 702.
Vodacom's Red Hot Deals presents 2 iPhone 15 128 gig smartphones for just $1,099 per month over 36 months on a 1 gig Red Core plan. Plus a Flexi 90 plan on the second device. You save $4,680. Now that's an extraordinary deal. Miss it, miss out. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With 1.6 billion rand unlocked for entrepreneurs through our Impact Finance Network, 58 billion rand invested through our Kumba Iron Ore business into infrastructure development, healthcare, community upliftment, and more. These are a few examples proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. As a sponsor of this year's South African Investment Conference, we continue to work with our partners to unlock our country's full potential. South Africa has a partner, Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
EWN Sport.
Right, let's get the very latest from the world of sport. Bafana in action tonight, looking for one last great tune-up ahead of the World Cup, and there's lots of other sport besides. Tatum Boloto's with us again.
Good afternoon, John. That game is in fact tomorrow at the DHL Stadium, so that's where it's taking place. That is Coach Hugo Broch's way of trying to break as far as winning notes are concerned for him, because he was unable to win his past 2 games as far as Bafana is concerned. Broch will be using these games to finalize his World Cup squad, therefore fielding some of his strongest possible teams, a decision that might not go down well with the Mamelodi Sundowns, whose players are preparing for the CAF Champions League semi-finals.
Both players in the center of the defense played a very good game. And Damane had a few very good passes, certainly the second half. With his pass, he put players nearly alone in front of the keeper, and this is something what I wanted to see. I told him before the game that I wanted to see again. And Damane determined, and Damane was concentrated, had a focus on the game.
In the Premier League, Tottenham Hotspur are wasting absolutely no time looking for a new boss after cutting ties with Igor Tudor yesterday after just 44 days in charge. Well, there might be someone new on the rocks here, because a 5-year deal is being offered to Roberto De Zerbi, who will be asked to be in the locker room if he agrees to this deal in the next 72 hours at Tottenham Hotspur. They are desperate to find that new coach. Moving over to rugby now, SA Rugby has appointed former England Scarlets and Ospreys technical analyst Joe Lewis to the Springbok management team in the role of performance analyst. He will join the team before the international season, which kicks off against the Barbarians later on this year. Here's Box assistant coach Felix Jones on what they do differently this season.
Exciting as well, because I think skill sets are getting stretched. I think tactics are being changed. I think selection has to be considered maybe slightly differently. And there's always a positive and a negative to whichever way you want to approach it. I mean, some could say that's negative. Other people say that's like an offload in the air. How exciting.
Over in India, the IPL today sees the Chennai Super Kings with the Rajasthan Royals, who have won the toss and decided to bowl first. As things stand, the Super Kings are 41 for 4 with 13 overs left. Tato Moloto, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic at this time, it is 19 minutes to 5, is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo Charlie with the very latest from the roads, please.
Yeah, Northcliffe, bumper traffic on Bayers Nordia between Judges and the N1. It looks like there's an accident scene as you approach the N1. Driving through Alexandra, also about a 20-minute delay, N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren, while in Midrand there's a stationary vehicle. N1 northbound before New Road causing heavy delays from the Betlu interchange. There's also bumper traffic. This is driving through the Joburg CBD on the M1 southbound from Killarney Benz to the double-decker section in Erasmus Park. That's Pretoria stationary vehicle N1 south after Rigel Avenue causing delays. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like a man wearing his finest suit on his way to an interview. He's prepped 100 times, but he still has butterflies. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a potential lucky break that could change someone's life. Every story's different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. So I was just thinking about food, and I was thinking about food in a very particular way. Have you been in situations, it might be that you were going for a job interview, or in my case, you have to sometimes dress up quite smartly because you've got a guest in the studio and you want to make sure that you absolutely look right. But then there's always the matter of lunch. And then there is also the question of what kind of things do you order on first dates, because, you know, there's spaghetti whiplash and there are a whole lot of other particular perils that might arise where food and your outfit may not turn out to be the very best of friends. So I wanted to ask you what experiences you've had when the food that you've ordered, you know, you're on your way to that job and you're like, oh man, I forgot to eat. Don't get the chili Vos roll and then drive unless you're wearing an apron or possibly, you know, a onesie that you can then take off and show off your three-piece suit underneath and so on. So food and that can put the carefully chosen outfit at peril. Your experiences, please, and your suggestions on what to absolutely avoid. Give us a call on 011 883 0702. My most recent experience is to get anything that's in a bagel because there's that hole in the middle. That's why it's a bagel. But it can fall out. I think your trousers are more at risk than your shirt front. But anyway, that's just one of my tips. Stories, please, on where food has put your best, what's the word? Couturial. Is there such a word? Couturial. We'll look it up in a minute. I think my colleagues are showing much too much deference. They made because I think what they think is there's no such word. Anyway, when they can put your outfit at risk. Has that ever happened to you, Tato? I mean, where you just think, darn, should have left the Boerewors roll behind.
I'm going to be honest with you, Tata John. The first thing you should not do is just don't wear white.
Yes,
don't
that's a great place to start.
Don't wear white because you
Unless
will
it's
suffer.
The apron.
See, now I'm a comfort food guy.
Yes.
I like me a curry and rice. I like the runny curry stuff. And you know what? I just always drop it on a white tee or a white shirt that I'm wearing, and it can become very difficult for me because I'm also a lazy washer. I just put things in the wash, and then you'll wash that white tee and it will still have the curry stain. So I'd say avoid the curries or anything that is liquidy or that is a bit runny. Get a sandwich. Butter sandwich, it works.
Yeah, but depends what's in the sandwich, because could be like a curry sandwich.
You know what I find works best?
Yes.
A chicken mayo sandwich.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it always holds together nicely.
I don't know. Chicken mayo can fly. Karabo Charlie, anything ever happened to you where your food sought to undermine either your romantic or career ambitions?
All the time. It happens all the time because I
Okay.
love me some juicy burger. And 8 out of 10 times something's going to land either on my jeans or my shirt. And I'm like, oh, well, we can just, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so all the time. So now if I'm going to a serious meeting or something like that, I'd go for something dry. Like maybe your hake and salad or chicken,
Yes.
something I can manage, and it's not gonna, the sauce is not gonna spill all over me.
First date do's and don'ts in terms of what you order, or do you? Or I mean, somebody was telling me. In fact, I had a conversation with my wife. This was before we started seeing each other, and becoming involved. If she went out with people who were very tentative with food, like sort of tried to snip, use a knife and fork to get little bits out of the prawns in front of them, or were unwilling to, go hand to hand with some peri-peri chicken, she didn't really form a favorable impression.
I'm not a big fan of garlic, so if I'm going out on a date with you and the first date, romantic date, and I'm hoping I'm going to get that last kiss at the end, please don't have anything with garlic because it's going to be a total turnover.
Well, spread the word.
I don't know, Karabo. It just feels like you just didn't like this person as much because I don't think there are very few things that could ruin a date with someone that you like.
Okay, fair enough. But okay, maybe I do like you, but that moment I'll be like, ooh.
But did you like her in that moment?
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
And with me, the bad habit that I do,
yes.
And I get funny looks. It's with my chicken. I love my chicken. I eat it to the bone, and then I start chewing the bone until it's shreds.
There's some people who like that, hey? A man who likes his food and is unafraid of using his hands. Give us your stories, please, where food and outfits and the moment might clash, and any advice you have will be appreciated by everyone on the team and all of you listening, I'm sure. 12 minutes to 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Now, there was a story that really caught our eye. It appeared on Media 24, and it deals with a new study that has been done down at the University of Cape Town at the Center of Integrated Data and Epidemiological Research. And they feel, based on the modeling they've done and the numbers that they have crushed, that we are massively in South Africa underestimating the number of South Africans who've suffered from depression, from significant depression, that there's a figure out there that says that figure in the country would be around 15%. They're saying it's more like 70. I don't know what figures like these tell us, but they certainly are worth interrogating. And we've got someone who is very, very active in engaging with South Africans who deal with this problem. Cassie Chambers is Operations Director at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Ms. Chambers, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. Before we get into numbers, and maybe we won't actually get bogged down in them at all in our conversation, but in general, do you believe that we underestimate the extent to which South Africans have faced and had to deal with depression, whether that dealing with depression has been successful or not?
Yes, and I think significantly why we're so excited for new research is because we get to see numbers that tell us a bigger story. We even know kind of pre-COVID what SADAG was getting per day, and then what the numbers look like to our helplines post-COVID. So we've seen that dramatic increase, and I think to have numbers and stats that tell us actually there's a lot more people suffering in silence that need that help and support is incredibly critical for us to then be able to go to government, to medical aids, to companies to say, this is why we have to invest more in mental health. This is a mental health crisis, and we should be putting better policies, better programs, better support, better treatment for patients. Because added to this level of data that we have in the research that tells us that nearly 7 in 10 adults have developed depression, we know that the treatment gap in South Africa for mental health is very concerning.
Yes.
Only 1 in 10 South Africans with a mental illness have access to treatment, meaning 9 out of 10 people with a mental illness do not have access to treatment. So these stats tell us that there's a lot more people that are living with depression every day, and we should be doing something more to close.
You just broke up for a second, Cassie Chambers. I want to make sure we've still got you.
Oh yes,
Can you're still here. Thank you. I didn't want to ask you another question if we'd lost the line, but I'm glad you're with us. Is it possible though that often when there are conversations about the underreporting of mental health challenges, there are issues of stigma, there are issues of a hostile societal environment that discourages anyone from acknowledging it. But is there a third element as well where people are sometimes themselves not sure that actually what they have is a significant condition, because I know people, and I would speak of my own experience too. I'll say, well, some days are better than others, and some days I'm up and some days I'm down. And it isn't always clear that you actually do need help because it's not clear to yourself.
Exactly, and I think, unfortunately, again, we've normalized living with depression, and this is the way it is. And also normalize the fact that it's harder to get help. It's more expensive to get help. It seems more difficult to get help. And again, the nature of the illness when you're feeling depressed is you lack motivation, you lack energy. It's all the contributing factors that make it even more difficult to reach out. On top of that, of where do I begin? Where do I go? How do I do this? It's just too much. I'm just going to leave it. So we've got this level of where we've normalized just suffering with depression, and people are thinking, well, this is how I feel, I must just live with it, this is what it means to live in South Africa. And actually what they don't realize is that long-term impact of living with depression that's untreated or undiagnosed can have a lot more serious impact on our physical health, our emotional well-being, relationships, work, and all of those factors, when you add it together, really come and have a negative impact on our day-to-day functioning.
One of the things that also concerns me, and I'm not looking to minimize the severity of the things you're describing in the treatment gap that you've illustrated for us, Cassie Chambers, but sometimes the numbers can be quite static. For instance, I'm looking at this report where it says there were an estimated 3.84 million new episodes of depression in South Africa in 2024. I'm not sure what an episode of depression would be, and what that figure may not convey is that people deal with it, people get help with it, people actually find a pathway to a better state of mind and a better life for themselves. And I'm wondering how we can factor that in as well, because these are not terminal cases necessarily.
And I think what's interesting, and we've also just learned of this new research, so we're also going to be digging deeper and understanding and working with the researchers. I think something encouraging that we can look at when we see the figures of, 3.8 million people developing depression in 2024. What is significant is that that's over 3.8 million people whose symptoms were severe enough that they had reached out for help and received a diagnosis. That's encouraging because perhaps the previous year there weren't as many people reaching out for help. So for me, as SADAG, as a mental health advocacy group, it's encouraging that people are being able to identify the signs and symptoms, are then reaching out for a proper diagnosis. And in the same sense, when we're thinking, wow, that's a lot of people and that's a lot of diagnosis, a lot of depression, what we're also wary of is that these are more people that are accessing care, that are knowing that something is not okay, I need to get the right treatment. And whatever that looked like, from seeing a psychologist, building up the support, going to a GP. I mean, the study also reveals some big discrepancies with regards to access to medication and antidepressants. But for us, it's encouraging that so many people are aware of the signs, accessing help and treatment. It tells us that in the space where we're at with regards to stigma and mental health, and often the doom and gloom side of mental illness, it's encouraging that so many people are reaching out and are getting diagnosis, and that's a big positive factor.
Thank you very much, Cassie Chambers, Operations Director at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAG. You may have heard the organization introduced and named that way. Maybe you want to comment on that, growing numbers of South Africans experiencing depression, but Cassie suggesting that if those numbers are in some way influenced by the number of people actually reaching out saying, you know what, I'm battling, I need help, she would say that there's a positive sign and side to that. So you may want to comment on that aspect as well. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. 4 minutes to 5.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
Government warns panic buying could place unnecessary pressure on fuel supply. Now on the ground, the mood is noticeably tense, with some motorists queuing earlier than usual for fear of looming price hikes and possible supply constraints linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Petrol attendants, speaking off the record, say limits on diesel are being enforced in response to increased demand, with some customers attempting to fill multiple containers. Consumers who spoke to EWN say they are uncertain about what lies ahead, even as government continues to reassure the public that South Africa has sufficient fuel stocks.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
We're on the ground and in the air with Thulani Sijo, founder of Take a Pic Drones. What's the flight plan for your connectivity?
The need for stable network connectivity is an absolute must in my field.
And with Telkom Business Fiber and Flexon, Thulani uploads high-res tower inspections and navigates seamlessly on the go.
Get Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month and Flexon 4 Pro from 219 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
Let's talk about some of these absolute basics that maybe parents don't think about when it comes to discussing the parenting plan in this parallel parenting where you're trying to keep things to a bare minimum.
Yeah, so that one makes it very tricky because obviously in terms of parenting, that would be very important. So for instance, if you're registering your child at school, the next of kin or whoever you contact, you would expect as a parent, the biological parent, to be the one who's on the list. So I think both parents have a responsibility to try and minimize as much as they can that conflict.
Parenting coach, family therapist, and behavioral science consultant, Ayanda Tetiana.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabota.
Let's walk the talk.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, coming up for the news at 5 in a moment. We've been asking you a number of questions about whether you went to visit the place where your parents worked. For one, he says, I was at his workplace 5 days a week for 5 years because he's a teacher at the high school I attended. I know a number of people have actually sent us messages saying that they were in a place at the school where their parents were teachers. King says, my mother was a street hawker, but just going to the bus rank and passing fruits and nuts, it was something fascinating. So I got to see his mom every year. I want to read you this one, though, from Grand Obadiah. Boy, was this a good place to have a parent working. My mother worked at Waterworld in Sun City. She'd take us there during school holidays. I remember the banter between the wonderful people that worked there in the early 90s. Boat rides were always the highlight. I bet they were. 702 Drive. It's coming up now for 5 o'clock. Let's catch you up with everything that's happening here and further afield.
This is EWN.
Mabuyane condemns violent protests in Gombo City, and the Jacob Zuma Foundation says the Khampepe battle is far from over. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has condemned the acts of violence and criminality displayed during today's protest in Gombo City. Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets today protesting against the alleged coronation of a Nigerian king. The Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality has also confirmed incidents of violence, looting and damage to private as well as public property. Babalondenze reports.
Oscar Mabuyane says he's noted with
serious concern the outbreak of violent protests and destruction of property in downtown Gombo city. Angry protesters took to the streets, looting businesses and setting several cars on fire. Mabuyane says law enforcement agencies have been deployed to stabilize affected areas and to ensure the safety of residents, businesses and commuters. Provincial spokesperson Sonwabo Mbananga.
Premier Mabuyane and the Eastern Cape Provincial Government unequivocally condemn all acts of violence, criminality and lawlessness. South Africa remains a constitutional democracy governed by the rule of law.
Protesters have dispersed after handing over a memorandum to the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Baba Londenza, Eyewitness News, Gombo in the Eastern Cape.
The Jacob Zuma Foundation says a ruling which dismissed an application by former presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki to remove Justice Sisi Khampepe as its chair is not the end of the matter. Zuma and Mbeki were dealt a blow in their attempt to have Khampepe removed. They argue that she is biased and will not be able to objectively evaluate their testimony at the Commission. The Commission has accused them of using delay tactics, with the former presidents expected to appear. Foundation spokesperson Mzwanele Manyi says a decision on whether to lodge an appeal will be taken after legal consultations.
But I can tell you now that in all likelihood, it's not the end of this important and unprecedented matter. This ruling at this point does not address a substantive issue of judicial misconduct and possible criminality. All it has done is to go to some technicality about procedural matter.
Limits on diesel sales at some Johannesburg filling stations are raising questions about fuel supply, but government maintains there is no national shortage. The Department of Mineral Resources insists that South Africa has enough fuel and says any disruptions are local and temporary. But global uncertainty, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, is driving concerns about possible price increases. Mongezi Koko reports.
Fuel prices in South Africa are linked to global oil markets. This means any prolonged instability abroad can push up the cost of crude oil. Costs eventually filter down to motorists and affect the price of transport, food and other goods. Industry leaders and government warn that panic buying can distort demand, leading to local supply pressures even when national stock levels remain stable. Departmental spokesperson Lerato Nzoko.
Despite volatility in global energy markets arising from ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, fuel consignments for March and early April 2026 were secured.
Motorists are being urged to buy fuel as normal, while authorities continue to monitor both global developments and local supply chains. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
Taxi Association Santakwa in the Western Cape says taxi fares could increase soon due to steep fuel price hikes expected from Wednesday. Petrol is set to rise by at least 5 rand a litre, while diesel will increase by more than 9 rand a litre. Santakwa Provincial Chairperson Mandla Hermanus says no decision has been taken yet on a fare increase. He says the association will first assess the impact of the fuel hikes on operations before making a call.
Probably by the end of April, associations will be able to determine how the cost of fuel now is impacting on our operations, and then we will adjust our fares accordingly.
Hermanus adds that local taxi associations will ultimately set their own fares.
These vary depending on what routes those associations operate, because sometimes within one association the prices might be different depending on the distances from one point to the other on the network of routes that association might be operating.
And at least 45 people have been killed following heavy rain and storms across Afghanistan and Pakistan. According to reports, heavy rain has hit Afghanistan since last week Thursday and has caused floods as well as landslides. Those killed in that country include a 14-year-old boy who was struck by lightning. Across the border in Pakistan, 17 people were killed and 56 wounded since Wednesday last week. Gold is trading at $4,572.52 an ounce. The rand is at 17.14 to the dollar, 22.69 to the pound. 19.65 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $114.83 a barrel.
In Bosmont, traveling towards Soweto, there's an accident scene N1 South after Albertina Sisulu causing delays from Gordon Road, while in Sandton, heading towards Midrand, bumper traffic M1 North from Colet to the Batlu interchange, and in Isando, traveling towards OR Tambo International Airport, traffic pressure, R24 eastbound approaching Barbara Road.
And in your world of sports, does the name Joe Lewis ring a bell to you? Well, you might want to get acquainted with that name because he joins the Springbok as a technical analyst, and Bafana tomorrow have their final dress rehearsals ahead of the 2026 World Cup against Panama, and Tottenham Hotspurs are wasting no time locking in a new head coach.
A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 14 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 17 and 28, and Vereeniging 13 and 26 degrees. The top story in EWN, Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyana has condemned the acts of violence and criminality displayed during today's protest in Gombo City.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 7 minutes past 5. Coming up on the show, we're going to be taking a closer look at what's happening in the Middle East, war in and around the country of Iran. Lots and lots of talk and then denials that there are, in fact, talks about possible pathways to peace. We're going to try and pick our way through that in conversation with analyst Professor James Kerr-Lindsay. Before we get into some of the other things we're doing, though, I do want to just offer our condolences and express our sadness at the terrible passing of Stephen Grust. He's somebody that has been interviewed regularly on this radio station. I had a great conversation with him about the World Scrabble Championship. That was one of his passions, but he was a very astute and interesting commentator on international affairs, and we wish long life to everyone who knew him, was close to him, who worked with him, and like ourselves enjoyed hearing him on Radio 702. It's 8 minutes past 5. Coming up on the program, we'll be sharing with you some of your comments on some of the questions we've been asking you, things that you really oughtn't to have be eating if you've got an important job interview or a hot date or anything like that. And we've got some of you commenting as well on the fuel price situation. All those comments come in on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. It's 9 minutes past 5.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Ay, I think Karabo ke le vampire. Karabo. Ay, Karabo is Dracula. Huh? You were turned off because of garlic. Hi, hi, Dracula. You have Dracula in the studio.
Show us your teeth there. Nope. What a great call. Thank you very much. We'll get we'll hear from Trafficula a little bit later. In fact, why don't we hear from him now? It's time to find out what's happening on the roads.
EWN Traffic.
And this EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word OUT to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Bosmont getting jammed. What's causing it?
Yeah, we've received a report of an accident scene, Bosmont N1 southbound after Albertina Sisulu, causing heavy delays from Gordon Road. So if you're traveling through Roodepoort heading towards Soweto, allow for extra traveling time if you're using the N1. Driving through Alexandra, traveling towards Germiston, expect about a 30-minute delay. N3 south from Marlborough Drive to Van Buren. In Midrand, traffic is sluggish. This is due to a stationary vehicle on the N1 northbound up before New Road. Santon, bumper-to-bumper traffic heading towards Midrand, M1 northbound from Corler to the Bacloon interchange. In the Joburg CBD, traffic heavily backed up. This is on the M1 south from Killarney Bends to the double-decker section. Ekurhuleni, Isando, heading towards OR Tambo International Airport. Traffic pressure on the R24 eastbound approaching Barbara Road. Edenville, traveling towards Bedfordview, expect about a 20-minute delay on the R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kilulis interchange. And finally, in Erasmus Park, there's a stationary vehicle, N1 South. This is at Rigel Avenue, causing delays. For the latest traffic updates, follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You know that feeling when the actual weather matches the weather app prediction? That's how good it feels to see the Outsurance pointsmen on your route. It gives everyone peace of mind knowing the Outsurance pointsmen are on the roads. They've been easing the traffic congestion so everyone gets where they need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using #PointsmenLove, licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
There are some things in life you can't replace. You know, the essentials. Dinners with the ones you love.
Dad, it's on fire.
Coffees discussing the ones you used to love.
It was standard 4, Mom. Time to let go.
Watching movies as you fall in love.
It's really smoky in here.
Get what you love for less with SA's best furniture essentials on sale right now at DecoFurn. In store or at decofurnsa.co.za.
The Vodacom United Rugby Championship is one of the hottest tournaments on the planet. Hollywood Bets adds spice with an epic competition in which 400,000 Rand in cash, prizes and betting vouchers must be won. Prizes include a Vodacom URC VIP experience and a glamorous Table Mountain adventure. To enter, simply bet 30 Rand or more on any Vodacom URC fixture between 23 January and 16 May.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
At Checkers, Easter is better and better with extra savings on every shop. Get more for less with deals on a Lindt chocolate bunny 100 grams for $99.99. Cape Point frozen cream prawns 700 grams for $159.99. And Coca-Cola Original Taste Less Sugar Soft Drink 2 litre 2 for 45 Rand. Deals valid until 6 April. Easter, better and better. Only at Checkers, Checkers Hyper or shop on 6060.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's, C's and more on primemediaplus.com.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
5:15 on 702 Drive. Let's focus our attention now on the Middle East. All sorts of reports, many of them conflicting, some of them conflictual, and certainly a lot of them contradictory, coming out all the time about possible peace talks. And then contained within the same report, comments made by adversaries involved in the conflict in and around Iran that would suggest peace couldn't be further from the table if you tried. The latest thing that I've looked at, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt have set up a team for back-channel talks with the US and Iran, but the positions do appear to be at the moment widely divergent. Let's try and get an insight as to whether there are any insights, any tentative steps down Peace Road. Professor James Kurlinzi, International Relations expert, back with us on 702 Drive. Prof, thanks so much again for your time. It's very hard to actually gauge whether there are genuine peace talks going on at all. But one might say that, well, that's what always happens when there's a war in progress, that nobody says exactly what they might be thinking about or talking about behind closed doors. What's your take on this? Is anything happening?
A great question. And I think, as you sort of suggested in the introduction, I mean, the fact is we're dealing with lots and lots of rumors. I mean, this is very common in warfare.
Yes.
We see this time and time again. And I think this is the thing, the first few weeks especially of a conflict, it's almost breathless news coverage of every new development that we're getting. And there's very little analysis that comes out of it. But this is a particularly confusing conflict in that there are all sorts of rumors swirling. You're absolutely right. Trump seems to be sending mixed messages. So one moment he could be talking about, on the verge of peace talks and on the verge of peace or the cessation of hostilities. The next moment he's talking about obliterating Iran's energy infrastructure, which has also been pointed out would be a war crime. But nevertheless, we're also hearing troop movements, American troop movements into the Middle East. There's talk that they're sending Marines in. So it's incredibly difficult to tell. And I think one of the things, that seems to be the prevailing view at the moment is that ultimately the most likely way this conflict is going to end is that Trump just declares victory and walks away. The thing is, he's got to do it in a way that isn't going to necessarily humiliate him. We know what a narcissist he is. We know all the problems that, come if you bruise his egos. So what that would in fact require is for Trump to declare victory and everyone to play along with it, to accept the Mad King has made his decision. But you know what, in this case, swallow their pride to allow his pride to sort of exit the United States from this utter mess that he's created.
It's an additionally complicated scenario, though, isn't it? That in the first stages of this, I think it's fair to say the United States and Israel were working together. But I think what's become clear over time is that their goals and timelines and limitations, if any, on what they want to pursue in this particular conflict are not exactly the same and at times quite divergent.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you can take several views of what Israel's ultimate goals are. So you've got Israel as a country, which will want to diminish Iran's capabilities. Iran has spent the past, we're talking since the creation of the Islamic Republic in 1979 as sort of threatening the existence of the state of Israel. And so Israel has always seen Iran as an existential threat. But for Netanyahu in particular, this is somebody who has faced all sorts of corruption allegations at home. The war against Iran, not just this one, but obviously the one that we saw last summer, has become a lifeline for his political survival. So for him, an inconclusive end is not actually the end of the world. He can simply say, look, I had to go along with it because this is what the Americans wanted, and we need their support, but I will be keeping a close eye on Iran and I will not let this drop. But of course, as you point out, for the United States, we're dealing with a very different situation. The United States has created the conditions. I think maybe Trump felt under advisement from his key officials, not least of all Pete Hegseth, who goes under the ridiculous title of Secretary for War, that this would be an easy victory and, they'd be able to do what they were able to do in Venezuela and there'd be regime change. And of course, that hasn't happened. And the effects that we've seen on the world economy and on the US economy has been utterly disastrous. So you're absolutely right. It might have been at first that Israel and the United States were on the same page and had the same objectives. But I think it is very clear now that they do have very, very divergent aims. And for Trump, this has become a problem on all sorts of levels, not just from the economic perspective, but this has really undermined the US role in international affairs. This has shown, I mean, this is rapidly becoming the USA's Ukraine war, as it has been for Putin and Russia, an intense embarrassment that was meant to be over in a few days, and the Iranians have proved much, much tougher than many expected.
There's an expression I've heard, Prof, that you can't win at the table what you don't hold in the field. If that, to some degree at least, is a factor in negotiations and the back channeling going on. If one were to look at the position in the field, I mean, is Iran yet in a position where they would have to accept anything the US puts on the table? Are they sufficiently weakened in that regard, or are they able to say, well, actually, as a kind of relatively speaking low intensity war, we can continue doing loads of damage while holding a much, on the face of it, a weaker set of cards?
Well, I mean, great point. And I mean, this is where you get into questions of resilience. And we saw that, Iran can clearly take quite a battering, and it has done so far. But how long they can keep that up for? But of course, then you get into the situation. So, I mean, look, one parallel that we could draw would be sort of the Kosovo conflict in 1999, where Serbia was bombed by NATO for 78 days, and then eventually just simply said, look, this punishment's too much. We can't take it, and sued for peace. And there was a UN resolution. Whether we get to that situation with Iran or not is a very good question. I think this is a much tougher regime in all sorts of ways. It will be fighting for its survival. And also it's very keenly aware that it has a strategic whip hand over this Strait of Hormuz and being able to block it. And will know that ultimately, if the United States wants to break the logjam, if they really dig their heels in, the only way Washington is going to be able to do that is sending troops in. And that... I think the general consensus is, all right, it might be possible to take a few islands, but, to send troops into Iran, a country of 90 million people. Now, many people would love to see the end of the regime, but there will also be a lot who will fight against it. And, we're of an age where we can very clearly remember what happened with the United States and Iraq and what a mess that ended up becoming. And I think most military observers would say that pales into insignificance as to what we could be facing if the US tried to go into Iran.
I think it's the world's biggest, eighth biggest army, if I'm not mistaken. But Professor, I mean, the back channelers and foreign ministers from the four countries, let me just repeat them again: Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, meeting in Islamabad. That was yesterday. Why those four, and what do they bring? Any particular leverage, either individually or collectively?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting lineup, isn't it? Because, of course, all four of them have very close traditional relations with the West. And remembering, of course, that certainly Turkey and Pakistan are neighbors of Iran, and by and large have had actually pretty good relations with it. I mean, in recent years, there have been a few tensions between Iran and Pakistan over a part of Iran and a neighboring part of Pakistan called Balochistan, but essentially that they've had a very good relationship. And the same in many ways with Turkey and Iran. I mean, there are tensions over the years. They're very different in many ways, but there has been a relationship. Saudi Arabia is a more interesting one because Saudi Arabia and Iran had a long time rivalry, which was actually, there was a peace brokered by China of all countries. This was one of the first major steps of Beijing onto the international stage a couple of years ago when it brokered this deal. But on the other hand, there are also a lot of observers who feel that underneath it all, many of these countries wouldn't mind it if the Iranian regime fell. But perhaps they can also see this as a chance for Muslim countries, major Muslim countries, to come together and also show that they can do something. So it's a very interesting development, but how far it's going to go is obviously anyone's guess at the moment, especially when you're dealing with someone like Trump.
And I suppose just finally, in terms of the kind of volatility of all of this, the US president will come up with a range of statements. He is quoted as saying that he will deal with the new reasonable regime in Iran. I mean, does that even exist?
No. In a word,
Yes.
this is the thing. It's wishful thinking. And this has been an exceptionally badly planned conflict. Maybe they felt they could do what they had done in Venezuela, where they got rid of Nicolas Maduro and they put in place Delcy Rodriguez, and this is somebody who may be very compliant. In the case of Iran, we saw even in the first few days after they killed Ayatollah Khamenei, there were reports coming out that the American government had admitted to journalists that, we also killed the second and third order of leadership, those we'd identified as potential replacements. And now you have Khamenei's son, who is in fact far more hardline, who was in many ways, from what we can tell, estranged from his father because he was so much more hardline. And of course, we don't know where he is. There is a very diffuse power structure that now seems to exist in Iran, that they seem to put something in place to make sure that if something like this happened, that they could resist US invasion simply by not having a single leadership in place. So it looks like the Iranians have been doing a lot of planning for this, but certainly all the indications suggest that the idea that we're going to get some sort of moderate compliant figure who's going to roll over and say,
yes,
after 45 years of hating the United States, that, well, that's it, we'll let bygones be bygones, seems rather deluded at this stage.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor James Kerr-Lindsay, international relations expert. His take on the peace talks or not that are going on in regards to the conflict in and around Iran. 27 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Right, the very latest from the markets, please. Stephen Curtis, good day to you again.
Good afternoon to you, John. Well, as you were just saying, oil prices unfortunately look like they're going to stay higher for longer as a result of your previous conversation, kind of heading towards $113 a barrel at the moment. Despite that, the JSE ending the day at 0.57%, 112,418 points. Financials down 1.13, industrials down 0.68, and resources up 3.66. One of the main reasons for that is that aluminium prices jumped over the weekend. That was partly because Iran hit two major factories, one in Bahrain, one in the UAE, that produce aluminium. South 32 produces aluminium, and they're up 9.29% on the day. Platinum shares up too. I don't know if there's a bit of buying the dip, perhaps. Implats and Implats up 5.6. Valterra up nearly 5%. Northam up 4.3. Tungela in the energy business up 5.5%. So is Exxaro, they're up 4.86%. And Sasol also up 3.2%, while Glencore also produced coal, they're up just over 3%. We buy cars, though, down 7% on the day, and Telkom down 4.56%, while the property company Attacks down 4%, and Hammerson in that space as well, down nearly 3%. Mr. Price down 2.76% at the same time. Nati Kirsch, the owner of Jetro Restaurant Depot, he's selling that to Cisco Corporation. Nati Kirsch's brother actually created 702 Izzy. $29 billion he's getting for it. Kirsch founded the firm back in 1976. Quite a nice payout if you consider it, but obviously a lot of work going into that. And then FNB getting a new CEO. Harry Kellen is taking early retirement. He's been on the job for 2 years. Latanya Johnson will be the new CEO at FNB. She'll also head a new retail and business banking segment. Meanwhile, Sizwe Nkletlana will stay on as the head of private banking and wealth management, while enterprise and public sector sub-segments move into a new commercial and corporate bank. Munir Ismail will be running that. And then just to mention, Bell Equipment saying the headline earnings per share down by 11% for the year to the end of December. In the US, things turning a little positive, John. I mean, I don't know if people have been going through Trump's comments and trying to understand them or not, but the Dow Jones is up 0.71, the NASDAQ is up 0.33, the S&P 500 is up 0.57. The gold price, $4,537.42 an ounce. Platinum, $1,902.80. Brent crude, $112.74. And the rand to the dollar, 17.18, to the euro, 19.68, to the British pound, 22.66. On the Money Show tonight, more from the Fuel Industry Association ahead of the big increase. We still don't have a final figure, of course. We will talk as well about what options there are for government's new task team that's supposed to look at the fuel price issue. We'll look at the possibility possible impact of this on the construction industry. And then a report on Bloomberg, Lesotho's looking for a bit more compensation for the money they sent us through the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. John, I don't know if you're a gamer. You and I have never had this conversation. I'm talking about someone who sits on a games console. Yes? No?
I don't think I've ever played a video game in my life.
So I've never had the bug. I mean, rather give me a good book. I mean, make it a good one. But really, I know people who absolutely can't put them down. We'll speak to someone who's made his career out of all of that this evening. Raymond Ledwaba. He's the person your children are going to be using as an example all through the long weekend when you say to them, get off the thing. Stephen Crutis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Those parents will not thank you for that, I can assure you. 29 minutes to 6. Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Financial advisors help you have a better shot at generational wealth. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. Let's get the very latest. Here is Mpali Tlamin.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The EFF says it will not be silenced on challenging the appointment and more than 70% salary increase of Parliament's Secretary, Xolile George. The party is in a standoff with the Auditor General over its audit findings on the matter that did not question the recruitment process nor salary bump a few months into his 2022 appointment. EFF Treasurer General and Parliamentarian Umphile Maotwe says the party has submitted a complaint with 70 pages of annexures to the AG, but is yet to receive its answers. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
After a heated meeting earlier this month, the Joint Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament said it was satisfied that it has sufficiently probed matters related to Xolile George's appointment. But the EFF's Umphile Maotwe is not in agreement with the committee's decision, saying she suspects the Auditor General was not presented with all the relevant documentation during the audit. The party has requested an explanation from the AG's office.
Are these annexures that we are presenting to you now, were they presented to you at the time for you to come to a conclusion that you are happy?
Maotwe is also suspicious of the double salaries George earned while transitioning from Selga CEO to the head of Parliament in 2022.
There's nothing wrong with AG saying, we didn't have this document, but now that we have it, we're going to reopen the audit process again. The law allows for that.
Maotwe says the AG's role is critical in this matter and that it can't be left up to the public protector to probe it alone after the pair wed over the weekend. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
With a major fuel price hike looming this week, Cape Town motorists have expressed concern over what impact this increase will have on their pockets. Petrol is expected to rise by at least R5 a litre, while diesel could see an increase of more than R9 per litre on Wednesday. Reports have also emerged of fuel shortages in some small towns in the Western Cape. Ntutuzelo Nene reports.
Some motorists are scrambling to fill up their tanks before the record high fuel price hikes take effect. They say the increases will negatively affect their budgets, with some even considering switching to public transport.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, my friend. I'm telling you now, it's going to be very tough, but I'm sure we'll make it through, man.
Wow, crazy. And hard times is coming up, so I don't know, looks like we have to catch the train.
It's hectic. I need to transport my kids to school. I need to transport my partner to work. I'm self-employed. I must drive wherever I need to go to the meetings.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the government is considering ways to lessen the impact of the steep increases. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
600 Putco bus drivers have received additional training today ahead of the Easter long weekend. The bus company says the drivers will be transporting thousands of ZCC members to Limpopo for their Easter pilgrimage. The company says the workshop that was held today was held in conjunction with a number of stakeholders. It says it wants to ensure an incident-free Easter weekend. Spokesperson Lindo Kulu.
The company will be collaborating with key stakeholders such as the Road Accident Fund, the Johannesburg Metro Police Department, Gauteng Traffic Police, and the Gauteng Department of Community Safety, who will all be actively workshopping our drivers to be more alert, responsive, and defensive on the roads during this high-pressure period.
A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, lows of between 13 and 17 degrees and highs of between 26 and 28.
Bosmont heading towards Soweto. There's an accident scene N1 South after Albertina Sisulu causing heavy delays from Gordon Road and Santon. Bumper-to-bumper traffic M1 North from Caller to the Patrude change and in Erasmus Park, Pretoria. Stationary vehicle on the N1 South near Rigel Avenue causing delays from Botha Avenue.
The top story in EWN, the EFF says it will not be silenced on challenging the appointment and more than 70% salary increase of Parliament's Secretary, Xolile George.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
The Clement Maniatella Show on 702.
The Clement Maniatella Show is about everything. It's about current affairs, family matters, the work environment, your health and wellness, relationship and sex issues that couples face. It's about learning, helping each other, healing, teaching. It's about life in essence. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is that we are quite intentional about doing life together. We're always pulling through for each other, learning from each other, always teaching each other. We're not scared to disagree, but also we're brave enough to be vulnerable with each other. We just care about each other, and I think that is priceless.
The Clement Maniatella Show, weekdays from 9 to 12 p.m.
Corporates that care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9 featuring Prasa. The CEO, Hishan Emiran, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. And join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
When was the last time you felt something? Something that ignites your passion, gets your adrenaline pumping, and makes your heartbeat skip? When was the last time you fell in love? Introducing the new Alfa Romeo Junior with 280 horsepower and standard park assist. Learn to love again. Visit alfaromeo.co.za to book a test drive.
Dreaming of a home renovation? We see you. Cash Build and Capitec bring you the partnership that has both the quality building materials you need and access to an affordable home improvement loan with competitive interest rates and extended repayment terms. Apply in-store at Cash Build or any Capitec branch between March 30th and April 30th to stand a chance to win a 20,000 Rand Cash Build voucher and other prizes. T's and C's apply. Capitec is an authorized provider and FSP. Initiation and service fee apply.
EWN Sport.
22 minutes to 6 o'clock now. Let's get the very, very latest news from the world of sport with Tato Moloto. Good afternoon.
And Dr. John, we start here. It is indeed that final dress rehearsal for Bafana Bafana. They face Panama tomorrow, looking to end the international break on a high ahead of that 2026 World Cup. Coach Hugo Bross is expected to go full strength as he locks in his squad, but that might raise a few eyebrows at Mamelodi Sundowns with key players needed for CAF Champions League semi-finals.
I know that the Sundowns players have an overloaded program also the next weeks, but okay, this is not my problem. I have to prepare a World Cup. When we have a World Cup, the disappointed World Cup, people will not say, oh, coach, it's nothing, you saved the players of Sundowns. No. I think Sundowns has players enough. They have 35 players in there. They can change, certainly here in PSL.
I mean, players that do not have to worry about that are Kaizer Chiefs players because they are not on the lineup for Hugo Bross and they gear up for that second Soweto derby. The tickets are out against Orlando Pirates at the FNB Stadium. The two Giants take center stage on Sunday, the 26th of April. Remember that derby was moved to Sunday because of Ultra Music Festival. In rugby, Joe Lewis joins the Springbok setup. SA Rugby has brought it in the former England Scarlets and Ospreys analyst as a performance specialist ahead of the international season. He links up with the Boks before they face Barbarians later on this year. And according to assistant coach Felix Jones, expect a few tweaks this season.
Exciting as well because I think skill sets are getting stretched. I think tactics are being changed. Yeah. I think selection has to be considered maybe slightly differently. And there's always a positive and a negative to whichever way you want to approach it. I mean, some could say that's negative. Other people say that's like an offload in the air. How exciting.
Finally, Kenya's 2021 New York Marathon champion Albert Korir has been banned for 5 years after he admitted to using a banned performance-enhancing drug. The Athletics Integrity Unit said this today. The 32-year-old tested positive for EPO that simulates red blood cells, producing out of competition test, this in Kenya in October of 2025. Tato Moloto, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, it's 19 minutes now to 6 o'clock. Let's get ourselves out onto the roads. Let's get you off the roads if we possibly can. Karabo Charlie with the latest on the traffic.
Well, if you're heading towards Soweto, there's an accident scene in Bosmont, N1 South after Albertina Sisulu, causing heavy delays from Gordon Road, while in Midrand, heading towards Centurion, N1 northbound, traffic heavily backed up. This is approaching New Road due to a stationary vehicle. Santon also heading towards Midrand, bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 northbound from Corler to the Butlu interchange, while in Edenville, there's about a 20-minute delay. This is traveling towards Bedfordview, R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kililis interchange, Erasmus Park. We still have that stationary vehicle. N1 South and Rigel Avenue causing heavy delays from Buerta Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Hey, with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. So I think what we need to do is give you a little bit of music just to play out the day's show and get you through Monday. Well, not that Mondays need getting through. Hopefully you've had a decent day. I'm just looking, by the way, at the pictures coming in from that incident down in Kugpo. And the blaze of vehicles is absolutely horrendous. I mean, this is really serious. I'm seeing a taxi on fire. I'm seeing a truck's on fire. This may well be from earlier. It doesn't say in the top corner live, but an absolute mayhem down there. If you do live in that area, please do get in touch and just give us your take on what's happened. But yeah, back to the music we were going to play. You know, there's so many songs that really do stand the test of time, classics. I don't know if you heard our interview, for instance, with Stan Katz, who used to hold many senior positions in 702 and then in Prime Media, the company of which we are a part. And he was on a songbook in addition. Stan, as a DJ, must have played and listened to and loved literally scores and scores, if not hundreds, of songs. But when he asked him to pick a song, he said it was easy. He said Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. That came out in, I'm just trying to work this out from my own life. I would say 1977, 78, Born to Run was released. And for him, that song, 49 years later, still absolutely does the business. So we want to ask you, is there a song that's come out in maybe the last 2 years that you can say with absolute confidence is going to be a go-to song for lots of people, considered one of the greats in, say, 10 years' time? So past 2 years is your reference point. 10 years and maybe beyond is your target. If you've got a song like that you just listen to now and say, my kids are going to be listening to this, I'm going to be listening to it on my 30th, 40th, 50th, 60th birthday, and so on. Give us that song, give us the title, and tell us why. Jonathan Fairburn is in to get us going. I don't know if this is one of your favorites or one that you've been trawling the office to line up, but what have you got?
Yeah, so it's quite a difficult one to pick.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I don't know, modern music these days all sounds quite similar. You know, now you've got AI coming in as well, which will probably pick up over the next couple of years. So to now look ahead 20 years and say what will be a classic and what will maybe stand the test of time.
Yes.
It's difficult, right? So I'm just going to pick one purely because of her popularity.
Okay.
And maybe because of all the fans and the youngish fans, they may, continue to play it, introduce it to their children, who knows. But I'm going to stick my neck out here and go with Taylor Swift.
Okay.
And this song, which I kind of quite like. I must say, I do like it. Now, I don't know if it will be a classic in 20 years, but hey, who knows? We can play this back in 20 years' time, John, and, discuss it and say if we were wrong or right.
Point at each other's Zimmer frames with our sticks.
Increase our hearing aids.
What was that?
What did you say, John? But I'm going to go with The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift.
The Fate of Ophelia. Taylor Swift, is this going to be a great song in 10 years, 20 years' time? And if this one doesn't do it for you, what does? What can you confidently predict is just going to be a major, major song favorite long after it was actually a hit? Let's start with Jono's selection.
I heard you calling on the megaphone. You wanna see me all alone. As legend has it, you are quite the pyro. You light the match to watch it blow. And if you never call for me, I might have drowned in the melancholy. I swore my loyalty to me, myself, and I, right before you lit my sky up. All that time I sat alone in my tower, you were just honing your powers. Now I can see it all. You took me out of my grave and saved my heart from the fate of Ophelia. Keep it 100 on the land, the sea, the sky. Pledge allegiance to your hands, your team, your vibes. Don't care where the hell you've been. 'Cause now your mind is about to be the sleepless night you've been dreaming of. The fate of Ophelia. The eldest daughter of a nobleman, Ophelia lived in fantasy. But love was a cold bed full of scorpions. The venom stole her sanity.
Taylor Swift, it came out last October, The Fate of Ophelia, answering, at least from Jonathan Fairbairn's perspective, the question we're asking, a song that's come out in the last 2 years that is going to be one of those timeless classics. Your nominations, please, and make the case if you can. Now, some of you are sending us songs that are already classics. That's not the question. The question I'm asking you is songs that came out recently that are going to stand the test of time. Those please to 072 702 1702. It's 12 minutes to 6.
Your vibes, don't care where the hell you've been. 'Cause now your mind is about to be the sleepless night you've been dreaming of.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic. They are loving. They are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
For Mamotati and Kensani of Design News, a beautiful room starts with a rock-solid connection. Tell us what was slowing down your growth.
It would have to be slow network coverage.
Now, Telkom Business Fiber lets the team process large renders while the landline keeps supplier calls coming in.
Get Call Light Fiber from 655 Rand per month and unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Every Easter, alcohol accelerates harms for families in South Africa. Our roads become deadly. Alcohol fuels violence and destroys our communities. This Easter, let's reduce the harms caused by alcohol. Increase excise tax above inflation. Excise tax is protection. For more information, follow the true cost of alcohol.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
Government warns panic buying could place unnecessary pressure on fuel supply. Now on the ground, the mood is noticeably tense, with some motorists queuing earlier than usual for fear of looming price hikes and possible supply constraints linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Petrol attendants, speaking off the record, say limits on diesel are being enforced in response to increased demand, with some customers attempting to fill multiple containers. Consumers who spoke to EWN say they are uncertain about what lies ahead, even as government continues to reassure the public that South Africa has sufficient fuel stocks.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
702 Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
9 minutes to 6, a song that's come out in the last, let's say, 2 years that will stand the test of time, that in 10, 15, 20 years' time, we'll still be listening to it as a classic. Leslie suggests this one. Sondela, here's Shishiliza and Venom.
Sondela, my baby, easy. You're my baby, happy. You're my baby, my baby. Sondela, my baby, you're my baby. You're my baby, my baby. Bengis chelugu tutane bengina lalu kwanelisi. Bengis chelugu tutane bengina lalu kwanelisi.
So that's a suggestion from Leslie. Khash wants to argue a little bit with Jono and his choice of The Fate of Ophelia. From Taylor Swift, and says, Jono, you had so many Taylor Swift options, and asked, what about Anti-Hero, which I think is probably my favorite Taylor Swift song, but I thought the one Jono chose was pretty good as well. We've got Madeleine, who suggests Water by Tyler. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I wonder if music, the way music comes out, there's so much more of it, it's so much more accessible. I wonder if the idea of a classic tune sits somewhat differently, because if I go back to days when I was younger, I mean, music was something you accessed on the radio, but music radio wasn't as abundant as it is now, just in terms of radio stations. And then, of course, you can access music in so many other ways, downloads, TikToks, etc., etc. Maybe things don't have the stick and durability that they used to have, but those are my thoughts. Let's hear yours.
Hey, Tata John, a song that came out recently that will be a classic. Lola Young, Messi. Beautiful song. Beautiful song. Thanks, Tsapo Soweto.
-4 degrees, and I get what you're saying. I just really don't want to hear it right now. Can you shut up for like once in your life? Listen to me. I took your nice words of advice about how you think I'm gonna die lucky if I turn 30.
So Lola Young, Messi, yeah, you thought it was a hit. Tsepo, so did the Grammy judges. Best Pop Solo Performance at the 68th Grammy Awards. That was her second studio album, came out in May 2024. Songs that have come out recently that will be songs we talk about in a long, long time to come. And for a long time to come, let's hear more of your ideas.
Hi there, John. Thanks for a great show. Peter here in Johannesburg. It's actually, one of the songs that one of the listeners recommended a few weeks ago has actually stuck with me, and it fits this theme quite well. Duran Jones and the Indications. It's a song that I've heard off 702, and in my opinion at least, I think it's going to be a classic. Thanks for a great show.
Flower Moon by Duran Jones and the Indications, a band that had a relatively short life. They went off on separate careers and then reunited and produced songs like that. Joseph is calling us from Kuruman. Lovely to get a Northern Cape call. Joseph, good afternoon. You've got a suggestion for us. Welcome.
Afternoon, June. Thank you. My favorite song is that one by Bruno Mars, Die With a Smile, the duet he does with Lady Gaga.
Okay, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga. That request coming all the way from Kuruman. Let's hear it.
I just woke up from a dream where you and I had to say goodbye. And I don't know what it all means, but since I survived, I realized wherever you go, that's where I'll follow. Nobody's promised tomorrow, so I'ma love you every night like it's the last night, like it's the last night. If the world was ending, I'd wanna be next to you. If the party was over and our time on earth was through, I'd wanna hold you just for a while and die with a smile. If the world was ending, I'd wanna be next to you.
Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga. That suggestion coming from Kuruman, suggesting that's a song that's going to have a nice, long, long life. Madeleine questions, and I suppose responds a little bit to what I was saying earlier about, whether hits have the kind of stickability they might have had 10, 20, even 30 years ago, given that music is so much more accessible, and I think there's so much more of it. That's certainly my impression. Madeleine says Gen Z will remember TikTok trends, suggesting that's what will stick rather than particular songs. Not sure about that, actually. I mean, a song can go with you wherever you go. But let's hear one more suggestion.
Hi, John and 702 listeners. So it would be Shabuzi, and it's Tipsy, a bar song. It's pretty cool. It's got this sort of Western type of theme in it, and it's a good one, eh? Thanks.
My baby born a Birkin. She's been telling me all night long. Gasoline and groceries. The list goes on and on.
Great suggestions. No time for any more, though, I'm afraid, because we've come to the end of 702 Drive. From me, John Perlman, and the team. Good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Sponsorships, proud sponsor of the ABSA Cape Epic, celebrating 20 years of taking it to the trails. ABSA is a registered FSP. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. Still